Okay, ladies and gentlemen,
Woo!
welcome to episode number 99. No, it's not. Episode number 92 of
Wow.
My Cup of Tea. We got a good amount of stuff to talk about today.
We do. Happy to be here as always. Last of Us was fantastic last night. But even outside of that, we have some fun movie news, like a new TMNT movies in the books. Totally no controversy around some of the casting there, right? Um,
What
and
is that?
then we
No.
have, oh yeah, people in
Oh.
general. Um, what else? Alien starting to film up. We love that franchise. We did 12 movies about it. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, Lord of the Rings as well. That we didn't. It's one of the things like I put it in last week's movie news or show notes, but we didn't have enough time because we had a lot of stuff to talk about last week. So it's here now. So yeah, a lot to go through, a lot to go down. A lot went down. And I'm excited. I told Nathan and told you off air. I listened to the whole podcast about episode 8, the penultimate episode of The Last of Us, and there was a lot
Yeah.
that Craig and Neil and Troy had to say. Like, Troy Baker, the guy who played Joel, is in this episode. He plays James, the right hand man of David. And man, I loved this episode. I keep saying this every week. I'm like, is this my favorite episode? Is this my favorite episode? Is this my favorite episode? And a lot of new things were added here to expand upon, James David relationship, David as a whole, his motivations. And man, it was great. Just for audiences as well, this is gonna be a full-on spoiler breakdown of The Last of Us, everything by The Last of Us, like the games, both part 1 and part 2. So if you haven't played anything, shy away now and then come back, I guess. Because there were, like, as I'm talking about it, as I'm thinking about it, there were some things that I wanted to bring up in regards to, like, Last of Us Part 2 and what we see there. But in general, man, this episode was breathtaking, fantastic. A great adaptation of the game that just kind of added a lot of stuff I didn't know I was going to be seeing, but I appreciated it. I'm always so happy about how this show gives us so much to chew on in terms of these little things that we love from the game, but they just add so much more to it. What did you think after this episode?
Well, it was a real feel-good one, wasn't it?
Super feel good, yeah. I think it was like the lightest episode of the season, yeah.
Yeah, real light, real wholesome. I can't. I really can't do it, man. Oh no, it's just I went into it and I was like, maybe I won't cry this time. Maybe I'll make it. And then Bella Ramsey just plays it so vulnerable. Where's her Emmy, man? Where is it?
It's coming. Or yeah, the nomination is definitely coming.
For sure. Oh, dude, yeah, it was a great one. It's it's hard to even like attempt to rank these because I'm just like, this one's up there with one of the greats. I said that every episode.
Yeah, that's the crazy part about this show. It's rare that a show is just like, oh yeah, every episode is like this good, like just insanely good, consistently great. It just adds a lot to the show, whether it adds a lot to Joel and Ellie or adds a lot to like the mythology of the world that they're creating. Yeah. Everything has felt so meaningful every episode.
We wouldn't be here every week. Where's the infected?
Oh,
where's the zombies in my zombie show?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's crazy because we talked about how there was a lot of zombies in episode 1, of course, the outbreak. Episode 2 with the test episode. Episode 3, not so much zombies in that episode. We do see Ellie cutting a zombie there in the beginning of episode 3. 4, no zombies, but 5, we get a horde.
Right.
6, episode 6 is the Tommy episode. No zombies. We didn't expect any zombies there. Episode 7, I guess are there any clickers in that Tommy section of the game? No, there's not. And then episode 7 was the great flashback Left Behind episode. They could have added some clickers, but it wouldn't have made sense given like I mean, what do you mean? What am I talking about? Yeah, there was a clicker. The whole fight between Ellie and clicker. Anyways, yeah. So the clickers are always omnipresent throughout this show. So people complaining that there aren't enough clickers, ridiculous. Because you have to think like, I know it's hard for people to think outside of their little small brains, but you got to think as a writer and as somebody creating a TV series, you can't have a clicker every single episode. It wouldn't make sense. And they talked about it in this episode when I forget what's happening. There are clickers in this area. Oh yeah, okay. We'll get to it later on. But when David's talking to Ellie, one of the main ones in the game that connects David and Ellie together is them escaping from a horde of clickers. You know, they're by the deer. Clickers come in. It's like, I hope you know how to use that thing with the gun from the game.
Yeah.
That's when you have to really get close to David. He helps you up. You pull each other up. You give a ladder. You almost die. David saves you. All this stuff. It brings you closer to David through action. But again, you can't have that in this episode. It wouldn't make sense. Craig explained it by like, if there was going to be a lot of zombies, because even in the game, there's a bloater, which is crazy. But if you added zombies or clickers to this event, it would carry as an audience member. You would be thinking at every corner there's going to be a clicker, or you never know when there's going to be a clicker. Also, I would add, like, with the advent of like this new cult-ish church-like colony that David now has in the show versus the game, it wouldn't make sense even more so that there are clickers, because the men in the group would have wiped it out, or the hunters, would have wiped it all out. So it makes sense that there's no clickers in the area because there's a society there. Of course, they would have defenses lined up. But let's start from the beginning. This episode has one of the just a great cold open, literally cold open, where it's freezing. It's now winter. We got our tease of winter last episode with Joel and Ellie surviving under the bed, but it was mostly a flashback, so we didn't really experience the coldness of winter as much as today. And what a great start piece here, where we get Joel and Ellie basically struggling to survive. It looked like they were chewing on some kind of beef jerky or a cookie. It looked like just a little bit of crumbs, basically. Like they're barely surviving.
Yeah, whatever it was, it's all they got. It's not much left, and you can see this show is. I said in my video, it's perfect at capturing the desperation of hunger.
Yes.
Just like no matter like what scenes you see, like whenever someone goes without eating for a while, you see like they literally cannot get enough with each bite when they finally do get food.
That's a good point. Yeah, like the desperation comes across very well in each of the actors who are in the show. But yeah, she's struggling to survive. Last week, we figured out that Ellie was able to stitch Joel up. She did not leave him. She stuck by him. He cried at the end. We all cried at the end. And it was a great moment. And this week, she's still struggling because he's not waking up, and she gave him stitches, so it's still not working. He's still like, you see his eyes like flutter open. I really liked that moment where it's like you see his eyes like widen a little bit. Like he's there, he's just unable to move.
Yeah, he really is in just recovery mode. Until the call to action arrives.
Oh yeah, exactly. So I really liked that. But yeah, so she quickly realized that they're gonna need some food and stuff. Oh, I'm an idiot. Oh, this isn't the first scene of the episode, isn't it? It's David. David's group was the first part of the episode, right?
Yeah. Who wants to spend time with that guy though? I mean.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, what are we doing there? So yeah, I guess we'll finish up this scene. Like Ellie struggling with Joel. I really liked seeing like Ellie's not naivete, but like just like her unclear direction. She has no idea what to do. She's just a little girl. She doesn't know how to heal him, what he really needs. But I think what you can glean from Bella's performance as Ellie is that like he needs more medicine, and they need food. So two things that they need: food and medicine. So she goes off on her own. She says, "I'll be back," to go look for some food for Joel and her. But before that, we are introduced to David, and David's one of my favorite characters from the game. Not because he's a great character. He's a great guy. I would love to drink a beers with David. No, David is a terrible, terrible character, and I appreciated him much more in this show than I ever did in the game. And that's not to say like he's not great in the game, of course. Played by the great Nolan North in the game. Nolan North, the iconic voice actor who played, Nathan Drake in Uncharted, among other things. He plays David here as this psychopathic, narcissistic individual, and we'll get into that, like what kind of things David really is. But Nathan, holy shit! We start out with like we see the cabin from the game, like the iconic, abandoned restaurant, community hall area, and they're reading scripture, and I'm like, oh wow, okay, this is different. But I immediately
biblical banger, is that you?
Biblical banger, exactly. What? Nice.
Last of Us now automatically counts under the biblical banger.
Oh yes, it does. I was gonna call it like that anyways. And yeah, I was shocked, but I was so happy because I immediately connected with Craig's writing. I'm like, oh, okay. Because in the game, I'm just gonna fast forward a little bit or a lot to David as a character. David's fascination with Ellie is very interesting in the game. We don't really get a clear-cut answer why he likes Ellie in the game. He sees something in her, basically, and we get that across in the show as well. He sees something in her. He realizes that she's special, and he doesn't want to automatically kill her. He wants her to be part of his group. And the more we learn about David in the game, we realize like this could be something very disastrous and sick. He's not the kind of person that you think he could be. You never know. And wow, yeah, he's totally sick, but we don't really understand like what he really gravitates towards with Ellie in the game. It's pretty much it's not black and white. It's definitely in the gray area for the game. And what you really need to know is that he's a sick individual.
Yeah, I mean, just off of the terrifying final moment of David in this episode, I was sitting here and I was like, wait, was that in the game? Was that
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was. Yeah, it's been a while since I played it, and maybe in the recap I was watching, maybe that wasn't explicitly included.
Yeah, I think because it's most notable because that's like the darkest Ellie moment we've got in the game. Like in the game, she's like boom, 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 and then Joel takes her away. Unlike in this one where she actually leaves the building and then she meets Joel. And Troy Baker also asked that question like at the end. I'll get to it later. But anyways, but also David's bigger motivations. I was always been curious about that because David is such a fascinating character in the game, and we get more of his motivations as in a different context here, but it kind of still connects. In the game, we come across David with James when Ellie comes across the deer, as we'll get to in this episode. But we don't really see much of David's community. Again, a lot of the game we have to be an active player, right? So we're playing as Ellie. We don't get to see what's going on miles away at David's camp. So as Ellie, we only hear through the game dialogue as these guys are chasing after you. Hey, this is the guy that killed Alec, or I think his name was, whatever. Like, we got to go after these guys. I don't really trust David, but we got to do what he says. Like, some things need to change. Oh, okay, this girl, she needs to die. Forget what David said. Like, all that kind of stuff as you're hiding behind lockers. You're hiding behind cabins outside in the wintertime. We don't really get much one-on-one stuff between David and his people and, like, what they think of him and how he thinks, what David thinks of them. So I'm very happy that through this religious aspect, we're getting a lot of David, his motivations, and who he is as a deeper person. Because he's reading scripture, and as Craig explains in the podcast, again, recommend the podcast to everybody who loves this show and watches our show, because the podcast is so good. But Craig explains how, especially this verse, I think it's like, I can't repeat it. I'm not a huge church guy. I forget which exact lyric you're talking about here, but it's mostly about like rebirth and them being able to persevere through hard times, basically. And immediately through like the way that David's walking and talking, he has like a preacher aspect to him.
For sure.
Very much reminds me of the governor from The Walking Dead, season 3, where he like this preacher attitude towards him. He's definitely their leader. People are like clinging to his every word.
Yeah.
And he's really trying to like galvanize his people during like this super harsh and cold times for their group. Then we see this girl crying. We're like, why is she crying? You get through the dialogue that she lost somebody very dear to her, presumably her father.
Yeah.
And David says one of the most interesting lines in the show, where he's just like,
It's
"You
too
might
cold.
not,
We'll bury him in the spring.
we'll bury him in the spring." And even though you lost a father, like you always have a father in me. Basically, I'll always be your father, or something like that.
Yeah.
I think
Very culty.
very culty. I think he either says that this scene or the next scene with her, but either way, like he says that in this episode, and it was very culty, very narcissistic, and we're starting to realize like, oh, he's using like this religion to really foster his own selfish desires and his own selfish.
Yeah, and it's very visible that the people prop him up too. Like we even see like a scene later after his encounter with Ellie, and they make the meal, which is presumably people.
No, Nathan, it's venison. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a weird looking venison. I've had medicine. I don't know about that one, Chief.
That's a bit too thick. You know what I'm saying?
The meat's a little too red. But yeah, they're eating their meals, and you can see like as they all start eating, you know, a lot of them are like almost done as soon as they start. Very small portions. Whereas David's plate, he has a big old plate, and he's taking his time, going slow. And I'm just like, motherfucker, you are just sitting like a king, aren't you, motherfucker? Jeez,
it's crazy. But yeah, one of the best parts about this episode that they really dived into more so than the game, and that Craig talked about in the show, is that like it's freezing there, and David's group is struggling. We didn't get this like really. We didn't really have this come across that much in the game. In the game, you realize like, hey, they need the elk, they need the deer, just like Ellie does. It's hard for food out there, but excuse me. But in the show, like Nathan just said, like it's hard for them to dig a body for her father. We had to wait all the way to spring for them to dig the body. Hell, they might have actually used him for the food, actually, so you never really know. Awkward.
probably.
Probably
That was probably
right? Like,
who they freshly got up.
that's what it sounds like, or that's what it seems like. I'm like, did how long has it been? Because like I think it's only been a couple of days since they left the university area. So
Yeah.
it would not be surprised if that's definitely.
Wow, I'm only just now clicking that. Yeah, that dude was that Joel killed was the father of that girl, and that's just more context that was given late. Fucking it. Why did it not click with me?
David says that in the show.
He does. He was like, yeah. He also had a little girl. I thought maybe he was just fucking with Ellie, but like,
no,
he's that was the little girl. Shit.
Yeah. So the little girl at the beginning of the episode is definitely crying because she lost her father.
Yeah.
The same father that Joel killed in in episode 7. So yeah.
Evan, this show is basically feels very prelude to part 2, doesn't it? We have Joel killed a father of a woman who's angry, who even says later you should kill him. They sent out a hunting party looking for this guy.
Yep.
Oh boy. Wow, that is fuck.
Yeah, that's great. You're dead right. Yeah, like this episode is really talking about like repercussions for your action. Like, there's always going to be consequences for the things you do in this show. Like, and as Craig explained in the podcast, and as I've always been saying throughout our podcast, is that like everybody's human. There's a very human attitude to this entire show. I talked about it a lot in Death with Kathleen. Kathleen was this very mass murder person. She killed a lot of innocent people. But she was just a human too. She lost her brother, and killing people was her outlet for that. And tracking down Henry and Sam was her outlet for that. And we compare the part 2 symbolism there, but part 2 of Last of Us is really explaining how like every action is a consequence and what people would do for love, blah blah blah. And not saying that David's going after Ellie because of he really needs her for this other random girl's father. It's quite the opposite. I think David really could care less about his people. And I was talking to Jalen last night. I'm like, he has like that cult vibe where it's like, we talked about it in the Bad Batch recently, in the episode with Yuri Lowenthal, and they were in the mines, and we're like, the guy up top, the guy doesn't care at all about the kids working in his place. He only cares about himself and like his selfish desire to like rise above, eat however much he wants to eat, and do his own damn thing. It's the same thing here, where except it's more complex, of course, but where David has this religious background. They're all a family. They will survive. They will persevere throughout this cold and through these harsh times, right? These obstacles. How much is the Bible always talking about obstacles, challenges that people always overcome? Right. That's why I like this religious symbolism, because it's very much so like religion, you know, without our modern day, and especially in dystopian fiction, people believing in religion is also just about believing in hope that there's something beyond, something above the horizon. You know, in the past, I'm watching this show called Vinland Saga. They always believe in Valhalla as a warrior, right? You always want to believe there's something beyond waiting for you. In this show, there's always going to be like the religion, that hope that they'll get through the harsh times. So yeah, when David's talking about this, you really get the sense that like he believes in it, definitely believes in it. But it's also a selfish desire. And on top of that, he might not really like the people that he's with. It's very interesting. It's such a complex situation. That's why I like David so much, where it's like, does he really enjoy these people? I don't think he really does. And that's what makes him so fascinated with Ellie. Because I was talking to Jalen about this yesterday, where towards the end of the episode, you know, he's just having this falling out with his people a little bit. And people are kind of ignoring him, and he's having a fascination with Ellie in terms of like, we're like kin here, like everybody else is like sheep, and he used that sheep symbolism. And you don't use sheep symbolism with people that just like you're equal to, right? Like the fact that he's calling people sheep and that they flocked towards him, just because he's a narcissist, he thinks he's above everybody else, but also because he thinks he's above everybody else, he doesn't care about the people below him, including like Troy Baker's character, James. I'll talk more about that later on. But yeah, so James, after this whole scripture scene, you can tell he's kind of like doubting David, and David's like, it'll be all right. You believe, right, James? Because James during this is like, during the whole scripture scene, James is kind of like the one guy in the back of the room, like, I don't know, this is kind of sus. And you kind of already know James is like one of the people in the inner circle. Again, James played by Troy Baker's character. James is one of those people in the inner circle who doesn't really vibe with James, or isn't just like all sold in on James's lies as everybody else is. But he still followed James to a degree, of course, because that's his leader. So yeah, I just like having that one scene where it's just like, maybe we can last a week, maybe we can last 2 weeks. We don't really know what's going on here, but we got to survive. But we did spot some deer over a couple miles east, and that'll give us something to hopefully find. I like how Troy Baker's like, it was dark. They could have been dreaming it. You don't really know for sure. You know, even Troy Baker's like, these people are just scared. And I really want to believe. David asked him like, do you believe? And Troy Baker's like, of course. I still believe. Yeah. And you can just tell like there's kind of friction there. And I like how there's just that dichotomy in the episode where it's like, yeah, David has people that he's with that are A, either sheep, or B, don't really agree with him, like James and like some other people later on when it comes to killing Ellie. So it's very interesting. That's why it makes him so fascinated by Ellie, is that he wants somebody like him, that he was playing, of course, himself to Ellie later on. But yeah, we already explained that Ellie kind of was like needing to go eat. Now we figured out that David also needs to eat. So they go in search of the deer. Hopefully I didn't miss anything there. Oh yeah. Craig and Troy, Nate and Neil, they made a great comparison to that I didn't even think about, between Jackson and this place. And you get the sense that Craig is not Craig's probably a religious man, I'm not sure. But like in terms of like religious societies, like a theocracy. You know what I mean? Like theocracies, societies built upon religion. He was comparing how a society built upon religion is going to be different from a society built by law and order. He compares it to the separation between church and state, which is in our, built upon the American system.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, it's complicated.
Feels like we're losing that every day.
Yeah. It's complicated. It's like, why do you swear by the Bible in court? It's weird. It's interesting. Anyways, but in general, ideally, there's a differentiation between church and state, and church, led by a man of faith like David, is going to be run differently than a society run by law, which is but Maria was. Maria said when she was talking to Ellie that she used to be not a lawyer. What is it called? A prosecutor, I think. Yeah, prosecutor. And Maria laid down the law. You can assume there in Jackson it was pretty much running like a well-organized machine. It's just these two different ways of rule that are going to be run differently, and theocracy is not going to be as successful as the one built by law, structure, unity. And hell, even in Jackson, they had a council. They said, right? They had a council. But in here, there's not really a council. There's like an inner circle. But David's at the middle of the circle, kind of like an onion. I was talking about in Big Brother, the Onion Alliance, where it's like you get your close allies, and then you ally with other people, but they're not really part of your close allies. But then there's another layer outside of that, which you're close to. It's like these big onion layered alliances, and this one in David's group is kind of like an onion, where it's like I'm close with David, or I'm close with James. He might know about the food, the chef might know about the food, but not everybody's going to know about the food situation here in terms of being cannibal, which is also very different, and not really different, but just another added layer. Because in the game, you assume they're all just cannibals. They all know it because they're all just like men hunting you, trying to kill you. But in this one, there's like groups of families here, and it's like, oh wait, do they all know what they're eating? And no, they do not. So it's very interesting.
And that just makes the scene even scarier when they're all having that communion dinner and they're all just scarfing down, just like so hungry, and they don't even know it's.
And James is like eating it like that one Squidward meme is just like, oh yeah, just
a little pinch of the bite,
little pinch. I really took note of that. I'm like, James is definitely not eating. He's not. He's just like, I'm gonna reluctantly eat because I know what this is, and not everybody else knows what this is. And again, the whole we can just talk about the scene now, but like when they're eating, and the whole idea that this could be just theoretically could be the girl's father, and she's scrounging up that meat. I'm like, is she consuming her own father here?
God,
it's very disturbing.
That is like the perfect twist ending for a fucked up horror movie, man.
Yeah, it is. And of course, I'm going to bring up some mythological symbolism here as well, because in mythology, there's a lot of consumption in mythology, whether like it's Zeus or the giants consuming other giants, or the giants consuming other gods. Gods
Kronos and whatnot.
Exactly, Kronos literally consuming his own children so that his children can't come to usurp him. And there's a big prophecy where it's like, there will be a child that will come to kill me, which was why he had his wife always come to him with the firstborn male, and he would consume them. And of course, until Zeus was hidden from him.
Here's a rock. Oh, yeah, yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that works.
All these stories.
So there's a consumption comparison that needs to be made here, where it's like in that scene where they're all eating, David's having these people consume the people that they presumably people who either died, people that they came across and just killed. You never really know, but they're consuming in order to keep that power within David, whether it's just secrecy or just through survival. Cronus was doing this for his own quote unquote survival, and now David's having them consume other people for their own survival. It's very sickening, but very interesting.
Even at at this point in the world they inhabit, it's like what draws the line between you and the infected? Like, is it just the ability to, think for yourself. Is that it? Because you've also taken that away from these people, it seems, and you're forcing them to eat their own kind. It's just, Jesus fucking Christ, there's a lot of deep thoughts to have here.
Yeah, it's very complex because are they eating their own kind? Or the thing that people are resorting to, man, in terms of this cruel world, it's like it's dark, and people are going to do a lot of dark things to survive, like Joel has done, like Ellie has done. So, oh man, there's a lot of gray in this world, which I love. But yeah, so we finally come across the deer, and there's, of course, a great moment straight from the game. Ellie, in the game, Ellie has the bow and arrow, the iconic bow and arrow that she uses to kill the rabbit.
Right.
And then she, of course, spots the deer as well. She's like, okay, I'll take the deer. Here, we don't have a bow and arrow, and I like it that we have the rifle. Of course, Bella says, like, carrying the rifle in, like, negative degree weather was kind of cold and hard. The rifle was heavy as hell. But I like it because structurally from the series, we got to see the point of her getting a gun, then getting a rifle, Joel reluctantly training her how to use a rifle after they came so close together at Jackson. So then, like, when you get to this moment, is a good evolution of not only Ellie as a character, but just the relationship that her and Joel have formed that kind of really elevates Ellie as a character. These are things that Joel has taught her, like how to breathe, quiet down your breath, and then, hit the target. And then she hits the target straight on, even though the deer stumbles and runs away.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a good progression of like what Ellie has become as a person thanks to Joel. Even though, again, it is violent through guns, right? Like, these are things that Joel is passing down to Ellie. Violence. But then she comes across David and James, because they come across the food. I like seeing it from their perspective. They're like, where did this shit come from?
I'll say anybody. Should take it?
I'll take it. Hell,
would you take it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'll be scared as hell because I was like, is this a trap? Am I about to get killed here? Like, if that's not Ellie, right? Ellie's a very kind person, also very violent, as we'll get to. If it's not Ellie, you're just getting shot and killed, right? Like, any other person would just kill Dio or David and James on the spot. Hell, take their clothes, right? But Ellie's not the kind of person. You don't really want to waste any bullets, and she doesn't want to kill people for no damn reason. But yeah, she's like, "Hey, you and Buddy Boy there,
Buddy Boy, twice,
Buddy Boy." It was so adorable and cute. And this is what's so fucking fascinating about this. And they called it in the podcast. You get the vibe in the game as well, especially on repeat viewings of the game, because David and I'll say it now, but like David and James, they immediately know this could very well be the same person that we heard about that killed our boy in the show. In the game, of course, Joel and Ellie killed a lot of people at the university, so they're even more upset in the game. But here they killed like Homegirl's father from the beginning of this episode, and the rumor is it's a big guy traveling around with, guess what, this little girl. So when when David and James first come across Ellie, they're like, girl, gun, by herself. It's like they can easily, quickly connect the dots. And Troy Baker said in the podcast that like, this is, you're trying to convey via his performance that like, we kind of know that this is Ellie. And David also in the same position is like, I immediately know who this girl is, but I'm not going to handle it through violence. I'm going to handle it the David way. And the David way is to be like, hey, how's it going? I see something in you. Let's work this out, please. Like, hey, very kind. We'll gladly lower our weapons. Here we go. Kind of like reeling her in, making him seem so kind and generous. And like he's negotiating, saying, hey, we're hungry too. Everybody's starving. You want medicine? And like, or he says like, is there anything we can trade? And she immediately is like, Infection. Medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, medicine. Do you have anything that can treat infections?
Treat for infections. Yeah, and I heard that and I was like, I don't know if that's the word you should use in this world right now.
Yeah, I know. That's hilarious. A good point. I'm like, what infections are we talking about?
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, via this dialogue, if you're David and James, you're like, okay, so she has somebody that she's caring for. She's alone right now, so we could easily overpower her if we could. But they're not. And this is when David's like, okay, we have medicine that can treat infections. And David or James like looks over at him like, what are you doing here? Because again, they know who this girl is. So when David says, hey, go get some medicine, I love the small dialogue where he's like, this is not code. Because David stands there, he's like, go get some medicine, as in circle around and kill her. And David's like, no, this is not code for you to go around and kill her, basically. That's what he's implying.
Yeah.
He's just saying, go get some medicine. And this is the beginning of the fracture that's developing between David and his people. Never really comes to pass because Ellie comes across and just chaotically throws everything for a loop.
Right.
But it's there. And it's important for David as well, David's character, that he really wants Ellie because he's fractured with his people. Man, it's just so much here. And then, so yeah, he goes to get medicine. And then David and Ellie have a chat when they drag away the deer here. Another great scene. In the game, this is disrupted by, I talked about earlier, clickers. There's a lot of clickers that comes across, and David and Ellie have to struggle to survive. They're going through like these old abandoned like mining coal mine areas in the game, and that's how they really connect. You can't really have that, so that's why you have this important scene where they're in the cabin and they're all talking about their life. And then this is David, who already knows who she is. He's playing the long game. It's so fascinating because he keeps his voice at even tempo, talking like this. So Ellie, we're going to be doing this. It's fine. We're all cool. Hey, what's your name? Of course, she doesn't give him her name. That's coming for a very important moment later on when she actually gives him her name. But he's just kind of roping her in, luring her in through these stories, through what they're doing. And the way that Ellie really jabs at David here, that they're talking about religion and saying like, oh, so the world has gone to shit and you found religion. And so when we learn a little bit more about David as well. So in the conversation, we learned that he was a math teacher. He was a math teacher who then, when the world fell to shit, that's when he found God, which is so fascinating. You find God in the darkest of times. And he found God when the cordyceps started happening. And again, this is going to also connect with what his idea of love is later on in the show. But he's connecting this to what, like, this epiphany that he found in terms of there's all this death around me. And then that's when he found God, and God gave him a deeper purpose. And of course, that's fueled by his narcissism. We talked about how in a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction, there's always a person who had like a menial regular job, but when darkness and chaos strikes, they rise above it, and their inner darkness shines. Their inner dark tendencies really start to develop. You really get that through, famously, Negan, who was just a car salesman pre disaster. Yeah, he was a car salesman. That's why he's so good with words, and that's why his people really connected with Negan. Negan, famously the guy that kills a lot of people in Walking Dead.
Taking it like a champ.
Yeah.
Jeffrey D. Morgan's so good.
So good. But he's a car salesman, right? He's using these words. And as a math teacher, as a teacher myself, David is good around, groups of people, kids.
Oh, this gets more disturbing.
It gets even more disturbing, right? There's a dark tendency to David. He's a math teacher who should be used to have like this paternal instinct around kids. As a teacher, you're not supposed to be like their mother and fathers, but teachers are always taught school is supposed to be a second home away from home for these children. There's that. But yeah, like he has like these paternal teacher ruler like instincts. But then there's another girl that he comes across in Ellie, and he's immediately attracted to her. And throughout this episode, I'm like, why? Why? What is it that he sees? Because I had the same question all 13,000 times I played The Last of Us. I'm like, why is he connected to Ellie? And in the game, I always backed up on like, in the game, he sees Ellie as like this violent soul. And you get really a lot. It's hard to really glean a lot of what David's true character is, because he only really tells you when he's trying to kill you when the place is burning down at the very end of the level. Ellie, come here. You think you can hide from me, Ellie? Like, he's telling you who he really is. Like, this is David at his true form.
He's probably like the most literal manifestation of the devil in a sense in this story.
Definitely, this is our darkest character yet. Probably the darkest character in the entire first season.
Being that inviting person is like, you know, like I'm a good guy, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then you get into those, you peel back those layers of just the dark stuff until his full blown force, surrounded by literal fire, comes out.
Great point. Again, get into that mythology, right? Like, there's fire all around him. That devil underworld symbolism with that. Very, very smart. But along with that, like, David's he's like trying to grab her in. He's telling her these stories about how religion, what really drives him, and these paternal instincts. Again, we already talked about how these paternal instincts, these ideas of love, and I think that's a big core of this episode in the season. Again, every episode, every point along this show is really challenging this idea of love. Does David love his community? Does he love Ellie in a weird way? Does he love like himself? Like, the idea of love is very important. It's a core key concept of the show and this episode in terms of David's fascination with everybody.
As they've had said in their podcast, like from the jump, you know, they'll be showcasing love, but love isn't always good.
Love isn't always good,
especially from who it comes from. You know,
Ellie has a deep love for Joel and a love for people in general. Ellie's a very loving person. She's a very affectionate person, compassionate. But then the downside for Ellie is that she gets too close to people, and if people get taken away from her, or injured or hurt, she goes into survival mode, and she goes to revenge mode, and that can lean into the dark side of love as well. People are not just one thing.
Well, it's going to be a great next season.
But I think that's what David sees in Ellie. He sees somebody who loves Joel. He didn't even know Joel, but he knows that she's supposed to be with this person, probably not doing so well if she's asking for medicine. So now she's by herself. She wants to have like this father figure. I think David is like, I'll hop in here. I'll be your father figure. I'll be your Joel. And they didn't mention this in the podcast, but I was talking to Jalen about this off air. I think David, in the context of The Last of Us, is supposed to be. Well, I would love to talk to Neil about this, but an anti-Joel in this level, in this stage of the game, where he's a very paternal figure. Has a love for somebody. They both love Ellie in very disgusting, different ways, of course. But this paternal figure, this love for somebody younger than himself, but that he can see himself in. And Joel and Ellie are very similar in a sense in terms of like their violence and their love for each other and for other people. But I think David sees somebody, and he tells her this straight up later on in the cage scene. They're like, we're not too different, you and I. But of course, when a villain says we're not too different to the hero, you know they're very different. But we'll get to that later. But it's just teasing us in this scene by the cabin, by the fire, that David's really luring her in, and this idea that he's a teacher, this idea that he's found religion, that he loves his people. He gets challenged later on. That's very important. But anyways, one of the best moments from the game is brought here, where he's like, and it's been very hard for us, Ellie. It's very winter. It's winter. It's cold. It's dry. And something, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but something tragic happened to us in the past. Well, you see, I sent some men out, and before this, he says like everything happens for a reason, right? Ellie? Everything happens for a reason. I sent some people out, and he says like I'll tell you why, and he says I sent some people out a couple days ago, and the crazy thing happened. Like we're just salvaging for supplies, and this crazy man kills one of our men, and we lost somebody, and it really hurt us, but it doesn't end there. The funny thing is, stories came back that he was traveling with a young girl. And Ellie was so involved, and it says in the podcast, but Ellie is so like chomping at the bit for the story. Because he's a teacher, right? Teachers are delivering these speeches, these lectures. You're really supposed to like grab your students. In this case, he's grabbing Ellie into this story. And when he gets to the punch of the episode or of the story, it's too late. And then he tells like David, like, don't shoot her. That's when Ellie like stands up. It's too late.
Yeah.
James could have definitely killed her if he wanted to. But again, James wants to, but David doesn't. And that's when, of course, they allow Ellie to escape. Ellie goes back home and is hurrying and trying to survive. James is like, why the hell did you let her escape? And he's like, it's freezing. We'll go find her in the morning. But I think that's David's excuse to just give him some extra time to like, convince his people to keep Ellie alive. But yeah, of course, they bring the deer back. They bring the deer back to the town. And he'll look at him. He's just like, why aren't you clapping at me? Like, well, why I brought back the deer. We should be happy. And he's like, okay, fine. Rumors have said that there are people, the person that killed,
Buddy Boy
father, Buddy Boy, basically. It is true. We have found them, and in the morning we'll send out a search party to go track them down. Basically trying to convince his people that like what they're going to do is right. But also before he drags in the deer, we cut to the kitchen, and as we talked about, when the food gets passed to the chef, she asked like, "What is this?" He says venison, but then a scene later, we see the deer show up. So we're like, that's definitely not venison then, right? Like if our food, if he's proudly saying like our food has arrived, then what are we eating right now then?
It's no way we got 2 deers.
Yeah, it's no way we got 2 deers or 2 types of meat here, right? If the venison is part of the deer, right? I'm not going crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like, wait a second. 1 + 1 is not equaling 2 in this sense. So yeah, that's definitely a tease that that's
1 times 0 is 0. What the fuck?
It's definitely meat. 1 times 0 is 0.
Thank you for grading me.
You're welcome.
Math was never my strong suit. Outside of money. If it's money, I got it. All right.
But I would ask you this: like, does the chef, when the person, because she's the one like cooking, right? Does she know, or the person handing her the food? The person handing her the food definitely knows. But when she's asking, is the chef the one that doesn't know? Is she not part of the inner layer of the onion?
I don't think she's the primary chef. Maybe sous chef, because she's like offering, like getting supplies. She just brings in the tomato sauce, just like 5 left. And we have a dude who's like handling the main broth. But yeah, she does like load the meat in. But so I think probably the chef knows. This dude definitely knows. I think she's left in the dark.
Got it. Okay, yeah, it's very interesting. I was like, is she saying this just so the people next to her can feel comfortable, or she just seriously does not know? But I think you're right. She does not know.
Because I mean, she's openly feeding her. I'm pretty sure that little girl is her child as well. Feeding that to her, no problem. I mean, she's probably like, but times is hard. It's not really a place that you can openly question and prosper.
Good point. But yeah, so I think after this, we cut to Ellie as she ran away. She's back inside. She gives Joel, the the infection, or no, she gives him the vaccine, the what's it called,
The antibodies.
antibodies, the antibiotics medicine.
Yeah.
And then we finally see Joel again, eyes fluttering up. He's awake now a little bit. He's not able to say anything, but he's there. She gives him the knife she goes outside. She hears people coming.
Yeah.
She comes back inside. She gives him the knife. If anybody comes down here, you kill them.
Don't fall asleep, Joel.
Don't fall asleep. Yeah.
Unlike me this evening, but
exactly. So yeah, his survival instincts are starting to grow there. He's like, you can tell as soon as he leaves, he's like, don't leave, kind of thing. It's like, it's so interesting because you can kind of assume like he feels so weak, he feels so helpless, and it's so sad, especially by the end of this episode. But yeah, so she runs away. She starts giving off like, warnings to her people, to David's people, and then they like basically quickly track her. Again, Troy Baker, James, played by Troy Baker, sits behind a tree, basically snipes the poor horse, and then knocks Ellie out there.
They're totally gonna eat that horse, aren't they?
I mean, I would, right? Definitely.
Yeah, this rate. I mean,
they were definitely.
They did that in America, didn't they?
Yeah.
War.
If they had to, like, they didn't like, hey, we're gonna hunt down horses, but
it was the last resort.
It was the last resort. If horses were killed, and it's like, I guess we'll do it. Horses don't have the best meat in the world. But yeah, because especially later on in the episode, when Joel's like in one of the freezers, he sees just one of the closets.
The horse is laying there.
The horse is laying there, so you can assume like, oh, this is definitely going to be a food for thought, basically.
It's not Shimmer though. Shimmer lives forever.
Shimmer lives forever. We'll see that in season 2 or 3.
But yeah, that was also a disturbing moment when Joel's in the freezer.
Oh yeah, that was gnarly. Again, straight from the game. Where you see.
Didn't know I was watching The Predator.
No,
which has a double connotation.
Oh boy, good point.
But yeah, back on the Ellie's escape.
Yeah, back on Ellie's escape. So she's knocked out. The people come up to her and they're getting ready to shoot her. And this is what we talked about early on, or this was talked about by David and his group as they're walking. They're like, when we come across them, we're only going to kill Joel. We're not looking to kill Ellie. And again, people are just like, James is like, why not kill the girl? James is giving her side eyes. But this is what I wanted to talk to you real quick about. I already said David's the anti-Joel.
Sure.
But I also think, excuse me.
So is Troy.
I also think James, and again, I think they gave this character to Troy Baker because there's a lot more layers to him. Subtly. Sure. Than in the game. In the game, just a guy part of David's group. But in this one, whenever he keeps saying, we got to keep Ellie alive. Kill the guy, of course, but we're going to save Ellie. Wait, did I skip over when he slapped the girl, by the way? When he slapped the
it was back at dinner.
That was back at dinner. But I'll get to that in a second. I think James, and Troy Baker mentioned this in the podcast, and I knew I was like, I'm definitely right. I think you can compare David to our other Star Wars podcast, Sidious. I think David's kind of like Sidious, especially in terms of like the whole consumption.
Ooh, yeah.
The whole consumption metaphor, where he's like trying to eat for his own survival, take away threats to him, and try and just survive at any cost. Blah blah blah. That's something that Sidious always does. He always wants to survive. But secondly, I think he's Sidious in the sense that like James was, you can compare him to Maul or Dooku in a sense, where James was a loyal guy. I think more so Dooku. Dooku, just like James, loyal to David to a fault, but there's a little bit of skepticism. I think Dooku always believed. This wasn't really super conveyed. Yeah, it was conveyed in the prequels. I was like, it wasn't really conveyed. Yeah, George Lucas definitely said it in Attack of the Clones, where he's talking to Obi-Wan like, we could overthrow Palpatine. So Dooku had aspirations to overthrow Palpatine.
Something Vader will get later with Luke.
Exactly. But never really comes to pass, of course.
Yeah.
I think James had aspirations to overthrow David, or a little bit. It's just there's some kind of things you can assume, probably, right? If this winter struggled on some more, maybe some time, you never know. I think he wanted to overthrow David. But I think what is more so subtly showcased here in this episode is that James feels threatened by Ellie. And I think Troy Baker said the exact same thing in this podcast. And I was like, okay, so I'm on the right track here in terms of these like subtle hints. Because he's like, keep Ellie alive. He senses, just like David senses a kinship with Ellie that even David himself can't explain. That David's kind of like, later on he says, we both have violent hearts. We're close. He senses some kind of closeness with Ellie. I think James, again played by Troy Baker, sells that or understands that and feels threatened by Ellie. And if he can kill Ellie, he could remain, in lockstep with David. Yeah. And it's very similar to Sidious, where I think Sidious has Dooku, but when he sees Anakin, a young boy, somebody that he can relate to, can see himself in, sees a lot of potential in, then he's like, oh, fuck everybody else. I want you. And Sidious is like, I want Anakin. I'll do whatever I can to get Anakin. He sacrifices Maul and Dooku for Anakin. Of course, he didn't think Maul's going to die, blah, 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 blah. That's out of the question. But I think the main point is that, like, I think Sidious really saw Anakin. It was like, I see the potential in you. I see you, basically. Yeah. And I think David, as soon as he comes across Ellie in the winter, as soon as he points the gun at him, he's like, oh, I know the kind of person that you are automatically, because we both are very similar. We both have violent hearts. And David's not exactly wrong. They are similar in certain ways, but of course, they're very, very different in other ways. Yeah. So I think David is like, I can use Ellie. And he definitely says it so in the next couple scenes. I'll get to it. But like, basically at this scene, I think David or James is like, if I kill Ellie here, I can remove this obstacle from David. I can get David back on the right track, and we can be in lockstep again. That's like the main layer there. I think under that, he understands that David's close with Ellie. He understands that like this could be a problem for us moving forward. So that's James's big thing. The other guys, though, they just want to kill Ellie out of revenge, which for them, hey, revenge. And David is also like, but again, the religious aspect comes through. It's like,
we're vengeance, deliver it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, damn it. Why'd you give him a bar?
Which is a great bar, but also has that, religious subtext to it. It's like, we're not going to kill needlessly. Everything has a purpose, right? Like he says early on, everything happens for a reason, right, Ellie? These are the things that happen throughout religion. Everything happens for a reason. We're here for a greater purpose, that kind of thing. Right. Which again, the religious symbolism is so important. So I love that they added that to it all. But of course, they grab Ellie, and they lock her up. Trying to juggle to see what happens next here. I think by this point, Joel's waking up.
They infiltrate the house. Joel's in, and we see him. He's still laying down. And I'm sitting here. I'm watching him because also his knife isn't on his chest. So I'm like, he's gonna sneak attack him. he's gonna like play feral and stab him. But then he comes down and he's just gone. He's once again Batman. Pedro's Batman.
Yeah, it's a great fight sequence, right? It's a great fight sequence.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's hardly a fight. He sneaks up and the guy stabs him in the jugular, and just like lays him down to die, and he dies with the most creepy fucking face, blood-soaked teeth. Oh.
They talked about in the podcast. The guy that died was like did very good in terms of like slowly dying, eyes wide open. But yeah, it was such a fascinating fight. Like, we've seen Joel fight, and this is one of his, definitely, he's on death's door. He literally stabbing the guy, fall together. It was really cool seeing it all happen.
Then later on, we got back to another hunter walking around calling for somebody's name, and then we see one of them laying on the ground dead. Dude gets spooked, and then Joel knocks him out. Next thing you know, tied up, and I was like, he's gonna do it.
We're getting the
Doing the thing.
same. They're doing the thing. It was great. So yeah,
Oh,
let's just handle it. I think it happens later, of course, but let's talk about it right now because it's such a great scene.
yeah.
And this was teased to us in the show at least, via that one scene in episode 6 when they come across the cabin with the 2 Native American couple.
Right. In a nicer way.
In a nicer way, he's like, "Where is Jackson? This better be the same location that your wife points to." And the guy's like, "Did you tell him the truth?" Yep.
Tell me the truth. Yep.
Yep. So it's like, okay,
It's not code.
yeah, definitely not code. But we get that copied here, but through more violent means. This is Joel at his last legs. He's desperate. He's fighting for his own survival, but mostly he's looking for Ellie, and that's when his big fatherly, paternal instincts start to kick in. Just like for David's, his paternal instincts kick in a creepier way. But he's really struggling with trying to find Ellie here, and you can sense desperation. And the more desperate he is, the more violent he gets. But yeah, so stabs the guy in the kneecaps. There's already one guy in the back just like pleading for his life, and the other guy with the kneecap stabbed, he's like pointing to where Jackson is in the map. The guy like reluctantly points to where Jackson is. Joe's like, "Okay, thank you very much," but then still, yeah, stabs the guy, and you're like, "Oh shit! Like this is dark."
Joseph.
And then the guy in the back starts like reeling, like, "Fuck! Why did you kill him, man? Why'd you kill him?" And Joel comes over to him. He's like, "He told you the truth," and the guy's like, and Joel's like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
I believe
the dude's just like, he's like, "I don't know how to tell you shit." And I think that's when he says, like, "Yeah, I believe you."
Mm-hmm. Killed as well. And these 2 deaths, I mean, like this again is showing us Joel at his darkest. Like these are hints of what Joel did in the past, definitely, not even possibly, definitely.
Yeah.
And it was just great here seeing like everything he's doing to protect Ellie. It was a hint that we saw in episode 1 when he did his security guard, but like his paternal instincts kick in, he gets ferocious. These are his like bodyguard, his defense tendencies that he tries to do. But also, as they mentioned in the podcast, these are just ordinary people, dude, and just seeing these are just ordinary people who succumbed to David's will and David's ideals. Like David says later on, these are just sheep who follow everything he says. So if he says they're not going to kill Ellie, then they won't kill Ellie, right? I think that's what he thinks because he's a narcissist. We already knew that that James was just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just so fascinating seeing this whole thing develop. It's a great action scene alone, but also gives us a lot about who Joel is as a father and the violent ways that he goes about everything. Just like Ellie. Ellie is very violent. Okay, Joel and Ellie are, very similar people. But also, I want to go all the way back because we flashed over it. But David slapping the little girl. Like, this is a very dark scene early on in the episode where the girl's like, kill them and kill them both. David walks over there. Boom.
That sound design was aggressively loud.
I'm
wearing headphones. I was like, fuck.
They really like cancel out all the other noises so you can really hear like the slap. And it's sick because David walks over to her and the mother stands up. He just like gives her the hand, like sit back down, basically. Sit back down. Let me talk to you. And he says, like, and I think that's when he says, like, we can't be doing vengeance. I know you lost a father, but you need to remember is, and I thought, him being the religious guy, he's going to say, what you need to remember is you always have a father. And that father, and I'm like, oh, God, right? God's like the heavenly father. Nathan, he does not say that. He says, you're always going to have a father. And that's me. And the next time you interrupt me, and next time don't interrupt me. And I'm just like, damn, because again, he has like this godlike, narcissistic,
God
psychopath
complex, yeah.
god complex here, where he thinks everything he says is going to go exactly according to plan.
I'm starting to think you think the Bible is autobiographical.
It's so fascinating with David. He has like this god complex, and that scene is so important, just to establish that like he is basing his ideals off of scripture, and he doesn't believe in the God of it all, but also he's embodying himself in everything, and he thinks he's above everyone. And just like this violent slap that he gets to the girl, when he says later on in the scene coming up with Ellie, when she's in the cage, that he's violent, you can see like, okay, this is the beginning of that, when he's willing to slap a little girl for disobeying him and just talking while he's talking. Yeah. Not great. That's not very teacher-like either. If I slapped every kid that talked while I was talking, I'll be slapping everybody in the room. So we cut to this a short scene with him and Ellie. It's short because like after that we got the Joel scene, but the first scene with him in the cage with Ellie, he's telling her like, tell me your name. Of course, she doesn't say anything, but basically he's telling her in the short conversation that you got to face reality. Nobody's coming for you. And this is the thing this whole city is, this whole like I can really use you scene that's really popping up, where he's just like, you got to face reality. And I put up the quote here, is like, that part of your life, you and this other guy, it's ending. At this point, David thinks that Joel is dead or just near death. And I think in David's perspective, he can take control of that. He can be that Joel. Again, like I said, the anti-Joel, right? He could be that Joel for her. He could be that father figure for her. Like that part of your life, it's ending. And that's when the camera zooms in on Bella's face and she's just like shook. She's shocked. She doesn't really know what's going on. She's in a cage. She's scared. And just the symbolism of that of her all, where he's just circling a cage like a predator. And she's just scared, a little girl in a cage, and he's just like prodding at her. It's very scary.
I didn't sign up for a cage match. Sorry.
It's supposed to be an exhibition.
3 minutes of playtime. Yeah, I don't think it's just that. This yeah, it's very captivating. They're like, they write David very well. He's a very like,
he's so good.
He's fucked up, but like you hang on every word because you're just like, it's, you know, it's like fucking true crime. You want to understand how somebody can be this fucked up.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like you want to understand. For me, I'm like, I want to understand how he got this way and why what's his fascination with Ellie. And yeah, so we have that short scene in cuts to Joel, but we come back, he's feeding her. He doesn't eat. She doesn't eat it.
Ellie, before the food arrives,
she sees it. Yeah.
She sees something.
And I love how the camera doesn't immediately pull back, right? It just stays on Bella's face.
It does, which is one of my favorite things I've been saying every episode has been showcasing. At this point, I'm just going to call it the Ellie will remember that notification, like games do. Yeah, it leaves a big old impression. You just see the terror on her face, and because it cuts back, and it's just, and you think like, oh, it's gonna be, you know, like a chopped off arm or a leg, something like that. It's like, it's just a severed ear, like pristinely cut off, like a trimmed fat. And it's just, oh my fucking god, because that's pretty like damning. If it's just like something torn off by like infected, it'd be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's just like, just a lone ear, so precisely hacked off. Ugh. Like, and then he comes in right away with the food, and it's like, and he's like, if it's any consolation, I swear this is just venison. And I'm just like, I don't believe you, bitch.
Yeah, so good. Yeah, she's like, she immediately doesn't believe him, but then he came. She's like, yeah, I mean, you caught us. Like this is definitely not. This is definitely not. Dear me, or whatever, or maybe he's telling the truth. You don't really know.
Yeah, it gets.
To I think part of me thinks he is telling the truth, because he does tell Ellie a lot of the truth. He doesn't lie to Ellie a lot in this episode, which makes it even more creepier. Like, he doesn't lie to her a lot, and that's what we talked about. I think it was our last Hyperspace hype episode, where we're like, Sidious doesn't lie to Anakin a lot. He doesn't tell him the exact truth, but he tells him like selective truths.
He bends the words he bends the truth. Well, I wouldn't say bend. He just he's auto selective of what's useful, what will sway Anakin in a specific way.
Exactly.
And this gets interesting, and that's arguably maybe that's something he's doing here when she calls him out on like, you're eating people. And he's like, you don't think it fills me with shame? I was like, do you actually care though? Like,
it was so interesting. So like, you don't think it fills me with shame? And part of me, I was like, no, I don't think so. But also, I think James, again, these people are human. James didn't wake up one day, it's like, we gotta eat some people. Yeah. No. But it's winter. It's freezing. This is their, as he says, again, I think he's telling the truth. This is their last resort. This isn't Jackson. They're not surviving. I like how Craig says, Craig said in the podcast that, like, as he explained, as David explained to Ellie in the earlier scene, that like, we started off in Philadelphia and then we moved all the way over here, moved from place to place because of Raiders, blah, blah, blah. We found some people. I think he said they just like, they picked a bad spot, which is so fascinating. I didn't even think about it, but like Craig says, they just picked a bad spot. They moved to Colorado, not realizing that when winter hits in Colorado, it's scarce. You're right. Like, there's not going to be a lot of things. It's hard to survive winter in Colorado if there's an apocalypse.
Yeah, they can't just up and move because that's fucking blizzard storms.
Yeah, Jackson's located at a different place. There's a lot more woods as we saw near Jackson. There was a lot of stores near.
It's
Jackson.
got an external like fortress too, doesn't it? Or maybe they haven't built it up yet.
They didn't build it up yet, but I think just in general the setting. Hell, they're near a river, right? They're near a river in Jackson. Yeah. So there's a river, there's forest. It was just a better preserved area. But yeah, that's a different story. But back to this conversation. He like, doesn't it fill me with she asked, like, doesn't it fill you with shame? He's like, well, yes, it does. But I have people who care about me, people who love me, people that rely on me. Just like he relies on you, Ellie. Just like he was killing for you. And
Ellie, she calls it out for self-defense, and he manipulates the words like he was doing it for you.
Yeah,
and
he was like,
I mean, yes, but also your boy came at Joel specifically with a bat. Like,
exactly.
Bending the truths,
bending the truths, exactly. Everything, of course, according to him. Again, these are his truths, which is so fascinating because then after this, he says like, you see a lot, Ellie. He was defending you, just like I'm defending my people. And again, this is where he gets into his real motivations for wanting to save and keep Ellie. There's something grossly sexual about it, where it's like, as we get to it later on towards the end, it's like you can definitely glean pervert, disgusting vibes with it. But also, he can see it's a mere reflection. He sees himself in her, and I think he is trying to like grab hold of that. And he says here, I have the quote pulled up, like he said, you're a natural leader, you're smart, you're loyal, just like he knew straight from their first scene how loyal she was in terms of medicine, like, right, please bring me some medicine. Yeah. she was like scared, she was stuttering, she was all over the place. And he captured that, he understood, and that's when it first clicked in his mind how like, oh, she's loyal to this person. She's a natural leader. She's smart. And I think this is that anti-Joel thing where it's just like he wants to replace that Joel aspect of it. He wants to be that father figure for her, and he wants them to be equals as well. Where he's like, I have people that just follow me. I have these sheep that do everything I say. I just had people rely on me. But you can tell he's bored of that. He's walking around with his God complex, and he rises above people. But when he comes across Ellie, he sees someone who's on the same level as him, and that's so interesting. I think he really sees somebody that he can connect to, that he can relate to, that he can see himself in for the first time, probably in a long time. Especially those violent notions, violent tendencies, and that's when. He says that, yeah, you're smart, you're loyal. And he says as well, you're violent. And then Ellie's like, you don't know anything about me. And he's like, I do. if I let you out of this cage and you grab this knife, you're probably going to kill me with it. Spoiler alert, she does. Not with a knife, but just with a cleaver. She kills him. It's the first chance she gets.
James is gone for sure.
James is definitely gone. And again, those are mostly survival instincts. But then again, he says, you have a violent heart. Something I've struggled with for a long time. And I'm just like, oh my God. And you can see it. Like the way he stopped the girl, the way he found God. Like you can tell he probably found God in order to like help out with his violent tendencies.
Yeah.
But also Nathan, this is where we get a great part. A great part of this episode that floored me. And I've rewatched this scene a couple times. A deeper motivation for David as a whole. Cordyceps. And he says, let me get the exact quote here. He said, when the world ended, I was shown the truth. And she says, by God. He says, no. By cordyceps. He says, cordyceps is it evil really? No. It's fruitful. It multiplies. It feeds. It protects its children, he says. It secures its future with violence if it must. And I'm just sitting there like,
oh, he listened to the second episode of the podcast.
Didn't he? I'm like, yeah. It's crazy how we thought Craig was just like, oh, this is an interesting idea for cordyceps. You know, he called it in episode 2 podcast, like the Wood Wide Web. In terms of like these these fungi, cordyceps multiplying. They want to multiply because it's just that its natural instinct is to multiply. That's why he compared it to the sick scene of Tess's death when one of the infected goes over there and basically kisses her. Yeah. And kiss, of course, the big action of love, right? Like this loving symbolism because it wants to connect with people. It wants to secure its future. It wants to multiply. That's the whole kissing, sickly, romantic, invasive version of love. The violent notion of love there returns with David. And it says like this violent notion of love, of multiplying, of securing his future with violence. He understood that because that's him. He secured his future with violence, and he thinks Ellie is the same way in terms of like these violent delights, as you could say, in Westworld. But yeah, like it loves, he says, and he's telling her this, and she's like scared, and he says like, because you can handle it. The others, I'm watching it right here. He's like, the others can't. They need God. They need heaven. They need somebody to lead them, like me. They need a father figure. And that's what I came, and again, I'm paraphrasing. I'm inserting my own ideas into this. But when he says, like, they need heaven, they need God, I think what he's saying is, like, we don't, though. And it said, even though, again, I think he does believe in God, he does believe in this religion, that's not the only thing. I think he also mostly believes in himself as a ruler, as somebody who can be a father figure. As he just told the girl, I can be your father now. I am your father now. I am the father.
He's almost like weaponized the Bible, if anything.
Exactly. Yeah, 100,000%, right? He's weaponizing the Bible to his own ends, to his own needs. And again, he's comparing himself to just like securing his future through violence. And he says, like, you don't need heaven. You don't need trivial things like heaven, God, or whatever to push you forward for this hope. You don't need that. You're above that, just like me. Like we're both above that. We use it to our ends, but we're above that. And he tells Ellie, we're both in that same vein. We're both in that same vein. And he says, like, the quote here, everybody else is sheep, right? They use this. They need God. They need hope. They need something to believe in. They need a father figure. They need all these things because they're sheep. Me and you, we're different. We're like wolves, right? Like we secure our future through violence, just like wolves do. And he sees a wolf in Ellie. Have you seen Sicario, Nathan?
I have.
It's like the ending with spoiler alert for Sicario, I guess, small spoiler. But when Benicio was talking to Emily Blunt's character, it's like, this is the land of the wolves, and you're not a wolf.
I really need to watch Sicario with my eyes of today, because I watched back in like maybe like 2016-ish, 2017 maybe, and that was back when I was just like, I can't really connect with these characters.
Dude, no kidding. Like, I was the same way. When I saw it in 2015, Well, my dad didn't like it because he thought Emily Blunt's character was weak, and I couldn't disagree more. But I mean, she's supposed to be weak for a big reason. But anyways, I was the same way. I was like, this is one of my least favorite. I mean, I wasn't a huge Denis Villeneuve fan. Arrival hasn't opened my eyes yet. But I was just like, oh, it's a fine movie. But like, the more I got the Blu-ray now, I watched documentaries about it. I'm like, or interviews about it. I'm like, this movie is complex. It's dark. It's deep. It's much more than just like an action movie.
Denis did Prisoners, didn't he?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So considering I love every other thing he's ever done, I really need to revisit Sicario.
Yeah, we could do a commentary about it.
I'll do a Denis commentary run
this year.
I still haven't seen Enemy.
Enemy's really, really good. I don't know if it would be good.
I heard like a sense of a couple things of Enemy that made me like, I don't know if I would like to watch that, but
I think you'll like it. It's
complexly, I think I would be interested.
I don't know if it's commentary material because it's so complex. I want you to really sink your teeth into understanding it first off, but then probably watch it together. It's one of those like hard to understand movie people are talking throughout it. But anyways, yeah, Sicario's like, this is the land of the wolves, and you're not a wolf. And I think just like or here, David is just like that, where he's like, this is the land of wolves. I see you. We're an equal. You can be a friend. And Ellie says, like, what about my friend? And David laughs like, what'd I say? You're loyal. He already thinks Joel is dead. He's like, you're very loyal, but be loyal to me. I can be your replacement. Just like I told the girl that I'm her father, I can be your father figure. And also we can be equals. Like, he's saying two things out of his mouth. Like, I can be your father figure and I can be equal. Like, which one is it?
We can rule the galaxy as father and son.
Right? Like, also, even Sidious.
I love that your eyes like, what? Oh, shit.
Yeah, it's all great. Because, it's compared to Star Wars. Star Wars is one of the most, as George always says, it's one of the most clear-cut examples of Campbellian myth in terms of, like, Joseph Campbell mythology, plain and simple, off the page. That's why everything connects with can connect with Star Wars in one way or another.
I mean, no wonder it stands the test of time, you know.
Exactly, because it's just one of the most overt, not even subtle, just overt. Some of it is subtle, but overt mythological movies.
Yeah, but like equally inspiring themes that any age can comprehend, really.
100%.
That's how you make the money.
That's why we're talking about Last of Us and still can compare it. But also, like, going back to that Sidious comparison, Sidious says, like, to Anakin, right, invented the Sith, that we're equals, right? We can rule the galaxy together. But they're not really equals. For the dark side, you need a master and an apprentice. And who's the master? It's Sidious. Especially when Anakin can defend himself when he's in the Vader cage.
As soon as Sidious put Vader in that suit, he was like, "Oh, this is the best cheat code I have ever unlocked."
Exactly. Sidious did not plan for Anakin to lose, but he, people can argue Vader's stronger than Anakin, so who really lost? But anyways, yeah, like he says, like, you're loyal to me, and it's just such a fascinating dynamic where he's like, he had like this fatherly symbolism to him, but he's also trying to say like we're equals. Yeah, it's very interesting. But this is the beauty of like this scene here. It's one of my favorite scenes of the season, where it's just him laying down his truths to Ellie. Like, we're equal. We're really of the same mindset. We're both violent people. And again, he's not really wrong. Ellie's violent. She's done a lot of bad things. She hasn't done a lot of bad things, but she's violent. She's killed people. But what he's wrong here, and, as a podcast, we can really get into this, but, like, Ellie's a very empathetic person. I talked about it early on in this pod, but, like, Ellie is so kind. We see it in this season alone. Her scenes with Riley, her scenes with Joel, the way she's sleeping next to Joel, the way she's so desperate to keep Henry alive or keep Sam alive.
Yeah, what a little great moment we kind of stepped over, but that scene after she gives the message, she just like curls up and like rests her head on Joel, so and then Joel with his barely consciousness, just rolls over to like lean back as well,
tilts his head, and just that alone, Nathan. Like, people keep arguing about the pacing of Joel and Ellie, and just like, the show gives us these small moments that if you pay attention, it's like they're growing 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think the relationship is really that fast paced. Like
No.
it's so good. It's so good. They're elevating a lot of the scenes from the game in beautiful ways, subtle ways, small ways that really strengthen the show and their dynamic. But yeah, so then he says I can tell the others stop looking for him, and then she kind of like baits him basically by saying like, "Oh, we can do this together, really?" And unlike Anakin, who fell hook, line, and sinker for David for Sidious's words, Ellie isn't having it. Ellie is no Anakin. She's going to break his fingers, and I love the scene. It's just like the game, where he's like, he didn't call her the C word in the game. He says like, "You little kid, you little child," whatever. But he says the C word here. He's upset, walks away. He's like, "What was it again? Tiny little pieces." Because she was nervous about getting cut up to tiny little pieces.
Yeah. I was saying that like, wow, because that was amidst her saying like, tell her Ellie's one who broke your fucking finger.
Oh, so good.
And then his retort was, what was it, tiny little pieces? I was sitting there in my video, I'm just like, man, this show's so good at just writing the best fuck you retorts like back and forth. It's so good. I mean that, very the way I'm putting it is very just like not as sophisticated, but the writing is just, the back and forths are phenomenal in the show.
Yeah, it's great. So then we cut to the scene of Joel looking for Ellie, comes across her backpack, also comes across cold storage in the form of bodies. The heads are gone, but you can tell like the chest is opened up of these bodies.
The arms are gone. The heads are gone.
Oh, the arms are gone too? Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Arms are gone. So then 100% confirming these are cannibals. And they have been eating the people that they've left behind or hunted, whatever. They eat people. The rest of the episode goes by very quickly because it's just a lot of desperate action. We see Joel going through the snow trying to look for Ellie, but while Ellie gets taken out of the cage, about to get killed here, very Walking Dead again in the form of the famous Walking Dead quote from the game in the comic, or from the show in the comic, is "You're eating tainted meat. You're eating tainted meat." When the cannibals try and they tie up in one of the people who was infected, and they ate him, or they ate part of him.
Oh god!
And hours later, he's like, "Y'all know you're eating tainted meat." And they're like, "Oh my gosh!"
Does that actually like infect them in that world?
Great question. They all get killed shortly after, so we don't know.
Okay.
Rick comes in, guns a blazing. But I believe so. And then watched Walking Dead years ago, guys. Anyways, though, we get a similar situation here where Ellie's about to get killed. He didn't say you eating meat, but like you're gonna be infected. And then because she bit down on David, David's like, "What the hell? It has to be fake."
It's pretty fucking real to me, man.
Yeah. James is like, "This looks fucking real. What's going on here? Like, it can't be. She would have turned by now." But anyways,
show me. Come on.
Ellie manages to grab the cleaver while they're shocked, stab Troy Baker. Bye, Joel. Which is, I love seeing the behind the scenes where it's like, and cut, and it's like, you see him like hit the wall. It was great. And then David lashes out. Ellie escapes, and they mentioned in the podcast, but this is Ellie going full feral mode, like never before. Yeah. Like she is on her last leg. She has she grabs a piece of wood from the fire, throws it at David. Place goes ablaze, and this is similar to what Nathan and I were saying, guys. Like this is full on underworld symbolism here. She's in the underworld. She has to claw her way out.
And this is the evilest man I think we probably encountered in the entire show.
Oh my god, yes.
And even as the entire place is engulfed, like we see the gradual like engulfing of the wood becoming ablaze, even the imminent death that awaits staying in there does not deter him from trying to do one of the most evil acts ever. This man is just, it's beyond irredeemable. It's just he is just fucking. Is there a worse word than evil?
No, I mean he's truly evil. He didn't even care about the fire burning down his
vile.
Face, right? Vile, yeah. He doesn't even care the fire burning down his place. He's just so one-track minded about Ellie. And again, this is where his true form is showing, right? The layers are unraveling around him. And when he told her he needed equal, and I mentioned, like, he's telling you to be equal, but also there's an undertone of that, like, she needs a father figure too. He says that here in the scene. He's like,
he does.
Where he's like, you're special, Ellie, and you know what? We could have built something together. We could have built something together. We could have been strong together, right? Like he's saying, like I think he was genuine. Like we could have been a good group together. Like my people are dying. They need a good leader. You could have been helpful in our leader, just like the captain, whatever his name was in the last episode in the flashback said, like, Ellie, you're a good leader. These adult figures can see that in Ellie automatically. You're smart. You're capable. You could be a good leader. Just like the captain, Fedra said it. David's saying the same thing. We could have built something together, Ellie. You needed me. And I could have given you everything, basically, he's saying. And he says a key phrase here. Neither one of us are dying today. Even after everything she's done, he still thinks that he just wants to use her. He wants to keep her, which is even more sick than just killing her. He wants to keep her as like a pet. And he says here what his true intentions finally are. He says, like, I've changed my mind, he said. I've changed my mind. We don't need we can't be equals. What you really need is a father, and I can teach you. Again, these fatherly ideas inside of him, the teacher ideas inside of him are finally combining, and he's saying, like, I can be your father. I can teach you. Instead of him being equal. Because again, they were never going to be equals. He didn't want them to be equals. He wanted to be that sick, disgusting, pervertish, fatherly figure to Ellie. And even though he did see himself inside of her, or he saw himself in her, reflectively, theoretically. So yeah, he's kind of obsessed with that fact, and that's his true nature. He wants to use people. He wants to be above people. He wants to teach them stuff. He wants them to be following him. So the fact that he doesn't want to kill her was just so sickening to me. But then, of course, we get the chase sequence. They fight. Ellie's struggling. She had her last breath.
Right.
Joel doesn't come, Nathan. It's great because just like in the game, I like the fact that there's no happy ending. There's no Joel savior ex machina moment. She manages to grab the cleaver just in the nick of time when he's on top of her. It's very sick, and she just lets the load down on him.
Unleashes. I'm watching it, and the most disturbing context prior. And so as she's taking her life in her own hands, as it were, I'm just, she's unleashing, and I'm just sitting here, I'm just like, yeah,
we get it. But it's also like, but also it's so sad. Like all the pain that happened to her recently, all the pain probably got her life, and she's just like, let's go. Like this is another authority figure telling her what should happen to her. It's sick. And she lets loose, and the guy got killed probably 20 hits before he finally dies. But she's full of blood. The blood is like on the camera lens. It's great. Bella's performance here, ferocious, raw, animalistic anger. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. And then incredible. Just the final scene when she does stumble out. This is the point that started making the tears roll for me.
Same.
It's just the fact that while the act didn't happen, just the attempt of it is traumatic enough.
Yeah.
And she's just so scared, and Joel comes up from behind, which scares her. But then when she sees it's him, he's like, it's me. It's just that last bit of comfort. She starts to break down, and it's
decompressed.
And just that them seeing each other, Joel's happy she's alive. She's happy Joel's back. After both of them like going through hell. And like now they came out on the other side, and they're back together, and seemingly just brighter future awaits. But it's just in that moment, it's just like, thank God it's over,
Thank God it's over, but it's not really over because this moment is gonna really affect her moving into the spring season. Like being near death's door, being surrounded, being lonely, being desperate for survival. It's and as David said, everything happens for a reason, right? And then she kind of carries that with her. It's like everything happens for a reason, right? Like it makes the journey, it makes the ending much more important for her. She couldn't have gone through all this. She couldn't have killed that guy brutally, killed all those other people brutally for nothing. It has to be for something. And that's different from David, right? David kept saying throughout this episode, we're both violent. We do what we got to do to survive. We're wolves. And Ellie is a violent person. She could be compared to a wolf, but she's also very kind.
Mm-hmm.
She's very genuine, as I keep on saying. So the fact that this is going to stick with her is very important. But also when Joel says like, baby girl, I got you, baby girl, which is also ad-libbed by Troy Baker, that was not in the original Last of Us script by Neil Druckmann.
Right.
It's so smart. It's so smart because again, I've been saying that David was like the anti-Joel in the paternal aspect. Joel comes in as the actual good father figure by saying baby girl, which is something he only ever said to Sarah.
Yeah.
So he's saying it now to Ellie. And even though Ellie and Sarah are two completely different characters to Joel in his life, he still is a father figure to both of them. He finally says baby girl. This is the full circle, not full because there's still a little bit that needs to be completed.
Yeah, but they've
yeah.
At this point, both Sarah and Ellie are equal in Joel's eyes.
Exactly. At this point, he finally hugs her. And this is they've been getting super, super close, but yeah, this is like their best moment. Darkest moment, of course, but like this is Joel saying, I've got you.
And we knew like a couple episodes ago by a certain point that like the bond is complete, but now it's cemented, you know.
Yeah, right. Remember we said it like in episode 6, that was the peak. Where they're finally realizing it, but then it starts, it goes down, not in terms of the relationship going down, but there's more to the story. There's more to it. And here is like, yeah, you are officially like my daughter here. I've come here. But also there's a sad aspect to the scene as well throughout the light, throughout all the light, bubbly moments. The sad part is like he failed again to protect her from the agonizing cruelty of this world.
Which I think we talked about at in episode 6 when he got stabbed after the whole conversation. Like, I can't protect her. Tommy has to take her. But then, it was her choice. And they went back out there and, he failed again.
He failed again.
And even in episode 7, that opening, he was telling her, like, go find Tommy. Go, just leave me. You have to make it. Just thinking about her the whole time. But it's become a thing that's clear. So this isn't just Joel fighting for Ellie. Ellie fights for Joel as well.
Ellie's fighting for Joel.
Which will be which is going to be like the big conclusion of this season when Joel fights for Ellie, and then vice versa when Joel's fate lies, Ellie's reason for living.
Exactly. Exactly. Like this sequence, this episode is going to become pivotal in the future. As we head into the finale now, Ellie is grief-stricken. She's hit, and this is one of the most subtle things. I think the show, given the trailer, is really going to dive into that when you get to the spring level and you're walking on the highway and Joel was so happy, right? Again, we reached a turning point for Joel where Joel was like, baby girl, he's like her father now. Joel's all happy now through this realization within himself, right? And he's so open. He's so sharing everything with her. Ellie's not. Ellie's reverting after this sequence. She reverts to the shy, quiet person, much more so even than episode 1 when they first met. And because of all the tragedy that they've been through, especially through this winter level of when she was at her lowest in a fight for survival. And I think she's relied on the fact that like this can't be for nothing. Like I have a purpose now. Like I lost Henry, Sam, Tess. I killed David. I butchered these people. Like, oh my, I've done terrible things. Terrible things have happened to me. Riley, I blame myself. Like there's a lot of guilt. There's a big burden. I think that's the big word there. There's a burden placed on Ellie going into this finale. The burden of things she's done and the burden of things that have happened to her. But then there's Joel. And Joel's always going to be like that bright future for her. But then I think going into the finale, it's going to be about her, and she has to figure out like what's going to be her purpose. Is it this cure? If it is, we'll see what happens with that. I'm very curious to see what Craig really added to that. It's only going to be 46 minutes, 48 minutes long. It's going to be our shortest episode of the season, but I'm not worried because again, I think episode 6 specifically, the Dam episode, really showed or the Jackson episode, not even Dam, really showed how much they can fit into an episode. They covered 2 chapters in 1 hour.
I feel like most people get thrown off by that runtime, just like, "What is the most important? It's the end. It's the most important." And I feel like they forget, like, you spent a lot of time running through a hospital under fire,
killing people.
We're gonna be fine. If anything, Joel's probably gonna do a nice clean sweep.
Exactly. We know we're getting the action sequence, and there's stuff they're adding too, right? Like if you see the previews, do you know about Ashley Johnson yet?
I remember I made a guess, and just with the way I feel like things are running about, because people keep bringing it up, I think I have an idea that based on the shot I saw of her in the trailer, that I believe Ashley's going to be playing Ellie's mother in the flashback.
Yeah, I believe so too.
And that popped in my brain like as we're talking about this, and I'm gonna cry, Evan. I'm gonna cry seeing that.
I'm gonna be full on tears. And there seems to be a clicker or a runner, at least a runner chasing her. I'm like, is it chasing Ellie? Chasing her? Like, what is going on in this sequence? I have no idea.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I've only seen the one shot of Ashley with the cradling the.
Oh, cradling the baby.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is she gonna get bit while she's pregnant? Is that how Ellie is immune? Is the show gonna really give us answers to that?
Oh fuck yeah! You know what? You know what this might be? It might be she gets bit as she's going into labor, and in her dying moments that she'll have to, say goodbye to her new baby in this world.
Wow, my God.
God damn it.
And again, we're getting that scene on top of them finishing off the final level of the game. So yeah, we're good guys in terms of runtime. And we kept saying it throughout this entire season, but the finale only needs to be 45 minutes because him killing people can only be at least 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. It shouldn't be that long of him just killing people, guys. Come on.
Yeah, this isn't a thing where we need like
a John Wick action sequence.
Or no, I mean like where we need like 80 minutes to like establish like Bill and Frank, because that we've only ever known them in the context of that one episode. We've been with Joel and Ellie the entire show. Even with the Bill and Frank episode, we had some dynamics building with Joel and Ellie. Like anytime there is a flashback episode, we still cut back to our present with how Joel and Ellie are continuing through. Exactly.
So we're gonna get our good resolution with the action sequence in the hospital. Again, shouldn't be that long. Ellie's mom stuff, Ellie's burden as they're traveling along the highway. Of course, they're skipping the entire underground tunnel with the bloaters and the clickers. Yeah. Doesn't need to be a thing.
I just need my giraffe, man.
We have to get the giraffe scene again. Short sequence.
There's actually been like a bunch of giraffe Easter eggs like all throughout. Like there's different like plushies of giraffes, and like that room in Jackson in episode 6, like there's a giraffe poster. Like it's everywhere. It's all being like planted in. So
yeah, so I'm fully confident in that. And then the last epilogue is just what, 3 minutes where they're just walking and then just like tell me the truth basically. So we're
going that uncertainty cliffhanger.
That's gonna be the cliffhanger for sure. And I think Craig's a big fan of the game. I think that has to be the last ending. If he does add to it, though, I'll be happily surprised. But I think we're going to get word for word. I think we're in for another word for word copy, just like we got from this episode and episodes prior.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm excited. I've had so much fun talking the show with you. We're an hour and 45 minutes in just on this one episode alone.
How did that happen?
People make fun of us for talking too much, Nathan. And that's what happens.
You did most of the talking, frankly, but
you get you and I on a podcast, and we can spit.
Bars.
We spit bars.
It's too many bars.
Too many bars. But yeah, guys, we'll be back here next Monday talking all things Last of Us. Might not be able to watch it live for once, which is crazy because of the Oscars. Oh,
They're really debuting the same time.
they are.
All right, well,
Damn.
we're gonna need to mute because we are gonna be watching the Oscars live.
Yeah, on a different podcast.
Yeah, you'll check that one out. Look at me plugging them. Character growth, me.
Exactly.
Happy 1 year.
Yeah, I can share the TMNT stuff.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You can take off the sound while I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
Oh, look at my front page. I love that for me.
Nice.
We're gonna break down every single sequence of this. No, it's a very short trailer.
Frame by frame, Spider-Verse style.
The
animation does feel very Spider-Verse influenced.
Oh, big time, right? I was even more so than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's this new wave of taking 3D animation, but like placing like a frame by frame stop motion aesthetic.
Is it working? Can you guys see that? Yep. Okay. Great.
Yep, it's up. Screen volume control.
Boop boop.
There we go.
Okay. Here we go. TMNT Mutant Mayhem coming out this August. Here we go. Can I kick it? Can I kick it? Is it going fine?
Yeah, it's going good.
New York. Morbius? What?
Spider-Man?
From permanent teenager Seth Rogen. That's genius.
Love it.
I love that. The next generation. Great score, by the way, all the way. I like the score.
Oh, yeah. And again, the artwork. Wow.
Love it. NYC Sewer.
Boom. Great designs.
Nathan, I'm shocked. These are fantastic designs.
These are actual teenagers, it feels like.
Hey, why did we pick a fruit shaped exactly like my head?
Yeah, the age is really shocking me. Like, they're really
You're
young.
fine. Chill.
Yeah.
He's gonna die.
Like, did they cast high schoolers to do this?
What, did you hear that? What was that? Well, nothing we can do. You guys
It
know
sounds
how
like
to
it.
do that?
Like, we know the voice cast for everybody else.
Yeah.
There he is.
What the heck are those things? They look like little Shreks to me.
Little Shrek. Bebop Rocksteady.
Oh.
Oh my, I'm doing this. Leo, what happened? Is Donnie bleeding? It was an accident.
Could not be me.
So
Wow.
you were baby turtles.
April.
Made contact with mystery goo.
Well, we prefer the term ooze, but yeah.
It's like more like it's just
It rolls off the tongue better, yeah.
Ooze.
it's nice, right? It's
Look at that cast, dude.
I love it.
But yeah, like, we know a lot of the go back. Come on.
nice, right?
We know a lot of, like, all the cast, like Rose Byrne, Cena, Ice Cube, Ayo Edebiri, who's playing. There's Ayo or Io, I don't know her name. Who of course was in The Bear. She's in a lot of things now because she was so good in The Bear. But she's voicing April, Post Malone, Seth Rogen, Giancarlo Esposito, Jackie Chan as what's Sensei's name? What's Sensei's name? Oh, Nathan left. I was like, why is he answering? But yeah, I wonder if these other people are just like voicing the turtles. Nathan, you're fine. What's Sensei's
Ice Cube
name?
in this. What?
What?
Sorry. What's that?
What's the Sensei's name?
Splinter.
Splinter. That's it. Yeah. Splinter played by Jackie Chan, right?
Yeah.
So
Ice
yeah, we
Cube's in
see.
this?
I didn't know Ice Cube was in it. I had no idea who he's playing.
Right.
Could he be playing one of? He's next to John Cena, so could he be playing the other Bebop and Rocksteady? Like, was that confirmed or something?
Bebop and Rocksteady are played by Seth Rogen and John Cena.
Seth Rogen and John Cena. Okay, never mind.
Rose Byrne's in this?
You have no idea who she's playing.
Are any of the actual turtles listed here, or do we have like
I can't tell.
Maybe it's like an introducing, and they got actual like young kids.
Like because the kids sound extremely young. What are you thinking? Like high school age, right? Like definitely not adults.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie doesn't even sound like he hit puberty yet, man. This is
You're like like a stabbed, like such a kid like feel to it.
This could be later middle school, if I'm being honest. I don't know.
Oh, for sure. Let's go through this trailer. Real quick. Nope. Let's keep it at 1080p.
It's funny. I feel like of all people, Michelangelo has the deepest voice, which is odd.
Okay. So yeah, I love the artwork. Just like the style of New York has that like that dirty TMNT vibe to it.
Yeah, I love like the brushstroke aesthetic on everything. It's very like Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, great point. Yeah, just great artistry, great lighting.
How'd they get Mikey
I like
braces?
that we're getting these. Oh, did they?
I think so.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah,
Wow.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that we're getting these simpler times with them just being kids before like chaos strikes.
Yeah.
Seems so cool. What's the one with the red? Is that Raphael?
Yeah.
Like that. You said he was the one with the deeper voice?
No, I feel like Mikey has the deepest voice,
Mikey.
surprisingly.
Okay.
Him here.
Which one's Mikey?
Orange.
Orange.
Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I just like them being kids. It's really cool.
Oh, I love how some of the watermelon guts were just like pencil squiggles, you know?
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true.
That's awesome.
Again, simpler is always better. We always say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get a quick montage of everything. They're all weapons.
I like that Donnie has Donatello has glasses.
Again, Splinter looks dope here.
Nice.
Jackie Chan, dude, that's fucking crazy.
That's awesome.
I can't wait to see. It seems like such a heartwarming story.
Mm-hmm.
Are these comic book characters just like everyday people?
It's everyday people.
Okay, I love the Shrek joke. Hilarious.
I wonder if we'll see Casey Jones at all.
Oh, is he confirmed to be in this? Stephen Amell? No, I'm kidding.
Not that I know of.
This is you have to rock it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Should we watch live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to do a commentary?
Dude, can we? I would love.
I've never seen them.
Really, like the classic '90s.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the classic. I was talking about like the Michael Bay bad ones.
And then we should do them all.
We should do them all.
All 5.
When is this coming out? August? Yeah, we definitely should.
We could even do the like 2008 animated Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh yeah, we love that. Was a good one, right? That's a good one. I'm not wrong there.
Yeah, that was a good one for sure.
Yeah, I like that one. April.
Let's go.
We're gonna see them as kids.
Let's go.
We're gonna see them grow up. That's just so cool.
That's the best.
That's great.
And God, their signature bandanas and their overall designs just look so good. So it's not just like the same turtle with a different color bandana.
Oh, yeah,
they're very unique.
For sure. They all look completely different from each other. Action looks like it's going to be cool. Like when you get this kind of artwork, you know the action is going to be even more stellar.
Yeah. Wow.
Oof.
Ow. God.
Just that scream too. You can tell. Little kids. Just playing around.
Facial expressions are so well done.
Mutant Mayhem. And you can tell like these are fans of like the lore and stuff like that too. You can just
absolutely.
Yeah, I love April. Like again, a younger version of April too. She seems like somebody who's just like, I don't know, in high school or whatever. Seems of course a little bit older than they are. And just like very curious about everything. The whole ooze joke is hilarious. But yeah, overall, great trailer. I love this.
Yeah, man. It's a great one. It's gonna be so fun. I love the Ninja Turtles so much. Have you heard the theory uh about like why Splinter gave each turtle their specific weapons?
Oh no.
It's a really cool one, and I think it actually it's like a fan theory, it hasn't like been confirmed, but it fits too well not to be true. Basically, they were each given like weapons to like better enhance their craft. So like Michelangelo, who's the orange one, he tends to be a bit more like wacky, a bit more bumbling, not as composed, right? But he has nunchucks, which takes such deep precision to use. So to like better hone his craft, he was given those. Donatello, he's a very tech savvy person. He takes so many different things to better, enhance the situation. So he gave him just like a basic staff, one big stick. You have to just work with what you got right there.
Oh wow.
And Raphael was given a size, which are a very like, he's a very bombastic, like big wrecker of places. So they give him like very like small precision up close weaponry to use. And Donatello was given the most like lethal weapon of a katana. And since he has a leader role, that like every like type of move that he makes with it has to be a very precise one, and it has to count and it has to be meaningful.
Wow. I hope they actually do some of that in the show or in the movie. That'd be really cool.
It would be for sure. Yeah, a lot of times it's never like really like deeply reflected, but it's just like the knowledge of it really enhances your viewpoint of like, while they're like cracking jokes, you can see like they have their skill on display because they've mastered these things that ultimately would be a hindrance at first.
Yeah, I would like that. I mean, we see them growing up, so it makes sense for them to have a little bit of origin, quick origin, just for like new fans and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple of the iterations have very briefly touched on their time as kids. I think in like the old 90s one, you maybe get like 30 seconds of them. And I think in like the newer Ninja Turtles, you get like a couple minutes, and I find it fun along the way. I don't think the turtles, even in like the new ones, have ever like really been the problem. So I think we'll still have fun with the newer ones, but yeah, it's fun.
That's cool. In other news, we have Detective Pikachu sequel actually confirmed to be happening. Did you ever see the first Detective Pikachu?
I did.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it was, again, the Pokemon looked really cool. Again,
Yeah.
just like TMNT has the cool visuals, I think this one is going to have just as cool visuals as the first one, because I think that was the best part of the movie, just the visuals of the Pokemon. The whole subplot with like what happened with the father was very predictable for me. I think the movie overall was fine, but like I liked the animation. I think the world building was really cool.
Yeah, the translation of Pokemon was very well done. I think this was a year before Sonic, so that's a wow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it looked better than like what the Sonic was going to look like, which is fun.
Yeah,
but yeah, Sonic looks great. This looks great.
Pikachu especially looks phenomenal with his fur aesthetic.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can capture a good blend like that when they do the live action Lilo and Stitch.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Yeah. Detective Pikachu, Sonic, like those are all like the live action CGI hybrids that we kind of want. Those are the kind of things I'm excited about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a good time with this movie. I wanted them to do a sequel. The whole Ryan Reynolds of it was so core to like the mystery of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this one they just go on a new mystery. I'll be fine with that too. Like you don't need like the human version of Ryan Reynolds in this. Just keep Detective Pikachu, keep Justice Smith.
That's the interesting point. Is like they removed the consciousness of his dad and
Pikachu.
Wait,
they did.
So now Pikachu isn't like as sentient. I mean, he's sentient, but he's not as like human.
I forgot about that point. Yeah, wow. I'm sitting here thinking like, oh, they do another mystery with the talking Pikachu.
Mm-hmm.
No, they definitely did separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it did say Ryan Reynolds' return is unclear. Like, in that point, yeah, you don't really need Ryan Reynolds. Just keep Justice Smith is a big actor now these days.
I dare him to do Ash Ketchum.
That'd be hilarious.
Uh,
Or at least walk by Ash Ketchum and be like, "Hey, Ash!" Like, okay, oh shit.
yeah, what's the canon of Detective Pikachu to the
To the lore of the
Ash?
show.
Yeah.
No idea. They were like separate. They're separate game series, so maybe they're not connected.
Maybe.
Multiverse.
Dr. Mario. No.
Catherine Newton was in Detective Pikachu. She was really good
Right.
as like the the romantic interest, the sidekick, the other lead in the movie, basically.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm on board for just those two growing, actors to carry the movie themselves without the draw of Ryan Reynolds being Pikachu. Just have a normal Pikachu Pokemon movie. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
With the mystery angle to it. That would be cool. I really like that. It doesn't have to be, we're gonna go to the next gym, which I think eventually studios could do, just like trying to capture like a Pokemon Emerald, Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, like capture those in live action with the Detective Pikachu aesthetic. It could work. We'll see. Other news, Alien. Nathan,
Hey.
we watched 12 freaking AVP movies, and finally a new one's
13,
coming out.
I think.
13. Oh my god. Oh yeah, I didn't include Prey. Yeah, 13. Finally a new one's coming out. I already put this in the show notes because I'm a huge fan of the person they cast last week, Isabella Merced. She's from Transformers. I love her in Sicaria de la Soldado. I loved her in Rosaline last year, playing. Well, yeah, she was playing Juliet. She played Juliet in Rosaline, opposite Caitlin Deaver. What else? She was in the Dora Explorer movie, which I never saw. But a first movie I saw her in was that movie with Mark Wahlberg, where she was adopted by him. What was this called? Instant Family. With Rose Byrne, Mark Wahlberg, Isabella Merced, and like had that Cheaper by the Dozen vibe to it in terms of like adopting a lot of children. Isabella was one of them. And it was just so heartwarming. It's a very, very good movie. I love the whole cast. It was great. I really recommend people see Instant Family. But yeah, we finally got our new Alien movie filming this summer with what's his name? Fede Alvarez. From most recently, what's that movie with the blind Stephen Lang? Don't Breathe 2.
Don't Breathe.
So he's good. And the Evil Dead remake, Fede Alvarez. And we're going to be doing Evil Dead soon, right? So
right.
It's all connected. But yeah, they actually have a short plot. Where did it go?
Of the Alien movie?
Yeah, so while the premise for the movie is kept under wraps, the studio did reveal that the film will follow, quote, a group of young people, which is, again, why they cast Isabella Merced, and the main lead is Kaylee Spaney. She's a growing actress. Haven't seen her in a lot of things. But a group of young people on a distant world who find themselves in confrontation with the most deadly and terrifying life form in the universe. If we get a young cast handling Alien, that's very different from, the classic adults trying to find life in another world and come across an alien and run away.
Yeah, it's usually very like militarized
exactly
settings with people.
But the young cast, I'm like, like this could be smart. It could be. Stranger Things really said, like, hey guys, young people can sell money. People will come and watch.
I mean, that's even scarier because, like, just kids, young people, yes, but
yeah, automatically you're like, these people better survive. In contrast to like when they're adults, you're like, oh, they're having sex in the shower, they can die. I don't really care. Yeah,
but just
I don't
like
really care
the younger
too much.
Innocence is like,
yeah.
Oh no. I mean, if one of them's a tool, then I'm like, all right, well, you've made your bed.
Of course, yeah, right. Like in Hunger Games, if you come across people who are assholes, and you're just automatically like, I'm not really with you.
But yeah, it kind of becomes more like a classic slasher in that sense. I'm intrigued to know. I'm sure the story will be great, but just as on the outside without much knowledge, I'm intrigued to know the timeline when this takes place.
Ooh, good point. Yes.
Will this be before the OG Alien? Will it be after? Are we?
Mhm.
Either way, it's all the future.
It seemed very separated too, just from this plot alone. But I assume, yeah,
I assume we're
most-
sticking with Ridley Scott's canon.
yeah, he's a
because
producer. He's a producer on this. So yeah.
producer on this. He's making the show, and we know
Mhm.
he made both Prometheus and Covenant, and that got really deep into the ties of creating the Xenomorph. So
Do you? Yeah, like every Alien movie, especially because we watched these.
Mhm.
They all had like Wayland influence, right? Every single one was like Wayland, Utah, even AVP was like, "Oh, Wayland again is back." It's like,
yeah, and those aren't canon for the
those aren't
record of everyone.
canon, but like they influenced by Wayland. So I wonder, even with the young cast, are they going to be part of the Wayland Corporation or anything? It's
Wayland internships,
yeah,
it was.
that'd be funny. So yeah, I'm excited. I think if it's filming this summer, is it coming out next year? Does it have
Maybe.
a release date?
Maybe.
I didn't see a release date. I mean, Batman's filming this year and it comes out 2025, so you never know.
Yeah. Well, it's just a lot of. If it's more like lower scale horror, that could be good because horror tends to be the cheapest genre to make.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's sci-fi, but depending on where they set it, it could be a lot less futuristic and more deeper into like the used future aesthetic.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Two more things. Last week, WB HBO had their big press conference going over the quarterly sales earnings call. They released some information, not necessarily new, but just like a bigger focus starting this year on Lord of the Rings.
Hey,
David Zaslav said, like, hey, we have the biggest collection of IP. Fuck you, Disney.
he always boy, this Zaslav always turning me away with his just like gotta use the IP, gotta use it. And I mean, like, yes, I would like you to use it, but you want money. And I know everybody wants money, but like you really want money.
Yeah, it's an earnings call, right? So you got to say, like, you're telling investors this is what's going to make money. But also, yeah, you're right. It's like, come on, dude. Universal is killing it this year with movies like Cocaine Bear, Megan, like these original stuff. Like, you don't have to build yourself on IP.
Yeah.
But that being said, when you have Lord of the Rings, which they've had, I'm pretty sure the Hobbit movies were under WB/Legendary, maybe.
WB and New Line.
New Line. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and just in terms of like their distribution, Lord of the Rings was a big phenomenon. It came out from 2001, 2003. Return of the King swept the Oscars. It was a big moment in time.
For sure.
And coming from 2003, we had a gap until they decided to adapt The Hobbit in 2012 through 2014, which is a big time. It's like Peter Jackson returning to Middle Earth on the big screen once again, and that was a big influence for me as well.
3D.
Yeah, and high frame rate 3D.
High frame rate.
Which was compelling to me because my mom showed me the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I only ever saw it on a old school box TV at the time.
That's awesome.
So it was like, oh my god, I got to see it on the big screen, Middle Earth. Let's go! And then, and that was great because I was also a big fan of Martin Freeman at the time because of Sherlock, his appearance there. And yeah, that was a phenomenon for me. Like I was just in my school days, and I was just like, yeah, it's another Hobbit movie every Christmas. It was by Star Wars before Star Wars came back.
Yeah, you're like 10 years old, right?
Yeah, give or take. I'll say 12. 13 maybe 3, 4, maybe 5. So yeah, that was a time. It came, it went. Most people were like, this was supposed to be 2 movies.
Yeah. Not the best well-structured trilogy ever.
But was still fun, and it was they adapted the last Hobbit to have a bit of a tie-in to they had Legolas in them for the last 2, who was not in the Hobbit book, but then they had like a little setup for him to go find a Strider, Aragorn, for the Lord of the Rings series to commence. Which, it's kind of cool.
Did he find him in Lord of the Rings? Is that how it starts? Did he find Aragorn?
No, because they would have, but Viggo Mortensen said no because he was like, he's not in The Hobbit, he's not in the book, so he turned it down.
Okay.
But they set up with words, and so that was done, and that was all we had for Middle Earth. We had those 6 movies. Whether
They made a lot of money too. They were very successful.
Oh, for sure.
Diminishing returns, but pretty successful.
Yeah, but they put the Force Awakens teaser on the last one, so
Yeah.
everyone
Blame Star Wars, everybody.
That's not what I meant.
Oh, you're saying like to draw attention.
Yeah, even though that we're kind of fell out of that age because we have YouTube, but no, it was a great moment all these times, and so we were once again we have like another decade gone by without them. Another 9. It seems like it keeps being like a 9-year gap before we get news for more.
Our last one was 2014.
Yeah, theatrically anyway, and then recently we got Rings of Power. So
yes, cool. Amazon. They mentioned that in an article. It was like Amazon has to contend with WB because they both share their certain rights. But this isn't going to, because Amazon's not owned by WB in any form. Amazon's its own thing. Right. But they did say like this is not going to hinder Rings of Power. Rings of Power is still scheduled to at least have 3 seasons, I think, at least. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this rivalry is going to commence even more so now that WB does have that animated Lord of the Rings movie coming out next year.
Right.
What is it called here? They mentioned it in the article.
Something with Rohan, right?
Yeah, Battle Rohan. The War of Rohirrim. Rohirrim.
I think it's Rohan. Might be spelled weird.
It's Rohirrim. Rohan.
Tolkien's words are very tricky.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, there's a movie coming out animated next year.
Yes.
That's 2024. That's very exciting. Hopefully there's more. If they said this was an animated trilogy, I'd be way more happy. But right. What are your thoughts on this? People were upset by it. They're like, don't touch this trilogy. Don't touch this world anymore. I was kind of more like, oh, cool. I mean, like, they're definitely not going to they're not doing reboots. People were scared they're doing reboots. They said flat out, these are not reboots. Hell, I don't think this is even going to be a sequel. Well, actually, I don't want to go that far because I don't think they said it's not a sequel. But like,
yeah, well, that's the thing. Is like, are the other movies canon?
You wouldn't think that?
Well, if it's not a reboot, then I guess I would think that. I don't know. I've never like really stopped to think.
I just figured this go in the past, like Ring to Power.
Probably, it is a very expansive world that you could tell. I know Tolkien made another book in Middle Earth called the Silmarillion.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I've heard a lot of stuff about that book, and I'm like, there's not just decades, but just millennia that are just untapped. And unfortunately, Rings of Power is doing the whole like Sauron, and that's like prime material. That could have been a movie in itself. Sure. So like, or a trilogy. But if Warner Brothers getting back into the Lord of the Rings game for the big screen, I automatically assumed they're going to go in the past, and I thought, okay, there's some fascinating stuff even before Sauron that they can get into in terms of like Sauron's master, the gods, the deeper creation of it all. There's gonna be a lot of interesting past stuff. I don't think they'll go in the future because it would get into like similar like post sequel trilogy stuff. Like, where do you go now that Sauron's gone? Like, magic is flowing back into the universe right at the end. So,
well,
or is it the opposite? I'm not sure. I'm not a huge fan. So,
not like. It's just it's just eternal peace, it's peace amongst the land. Like it's no longer like an issue with orcs and shit. Sauron's gone. Like all of what's the place they travel to? Mordor. It's pretty much fallen. Like Sauron's tower fell, it exploded, and Mount Doom erupted. So presumably, just like the land will overtake itself and it'll prosper once again. Because I don't even think Mordor was in full effect in The Hobbit. And they were like really like touting the existence of the Sauron being.
Oh, by the way, I'm reading this. I'm wrong. So here's the thing. Folks are emphasizing the difference. Amazon has the rights over Tolkien's Second Age, which is all about like the Sauron stuff. Warner Brothers rights cover Tolkien's Third Age, which cover fan favorite characters like Gandalf, Aragorn, and the Hobbits, and covers the war over the One Ring. Did I cut out there?
Um,
Over the One Ring. So I'm like, that's not good.
Okay, hold on. Because I heard you say what Amazon has. As far as you said what WB has, you cut out for me. Can you say it again?
Oh yeah. So Warner's covers Tolkien's Third Age, which is just like fan favorite characters like Tolkien or like Gandalf, Aragorn, and the Hobbits in the War for the One Ring. If they only covered that age, if they only have the rights for that age, this changes my whole thing entirely.
Well,
what do you do with the Third Age then? Third Age is still long, but it's like,
yeah. But so that would be like closer to the timeline of like the movies that we have existing then.
Exactly. Yes.
So likely sequel age or slight prequel.
So I guess you have to lean towards slight prequel, which isn't interesting.
I guess if you want to push forward, but that kind of like I don't know if Tolkien went that far.
Tolkien didn't. So you don't want to go past Tolkien. You definitely don't want to do that.
Are we bringing back Elijah Wood again?
Oh boy, I don't think even he wants to come back.
He wasn't too keen on the Hobbits, frankly.
Yeah, definitely not. Notoriously. So yeah, even the article says like Warner's had to figure out how to make movies from a time whose best stories were ever covered by fantastic films. Unlike they even say unlike Marvel and DC, which can lean on decades and hundreds of years of storytelling, Tolkien's finest work was in this trilogy. So where do you go?
I guess we could take.
Nobody wants a Gandalf film, standalone film. Like I guess that's even more likely now.
Well, I don't know. Hell, would Ian McKellen even step back? I mean, he's already an older gentleman. He wasn't happy about the filmmaking techniques of The Hobbit because they.
You're right. It would have to be Ian. It would have to be Ian because he looks the same.
He's like 1,000. Gandalf's like 1,000, and he looks like that.
So you can't say it's like a short prequel. Within the Third Age, he's gonna look like Ian McKellen. Holy shit! What do we do here now?
Yeah.
Is
Gandalf in Rings of Power?
No, there's like this wizard character that people think is Gandalf. I don't think he is. I think he's gonna be like one of the three main wizards of the world. Apparently, there's different wizards other than Gandalf that come to the.
Yeah, there's like I think there's like 5. He alludes to in The Hobbit. There's Saruman, who's Christopher Lee's character. There's Radagast the Brown, who they partner up with in the movies, and he brings up like the 2 blue wizards, and I'm like, who are they? And we never follow them, so maybe them. I don't know.
Yeah, people are thinking like the person in the show is one of the blue wizards or something like that. Okay. But we'll see. And apparently, the article does claim Amazon has a 50-hour commitment to Rings of Power. 50 so, 5 seasons, I guess. Wow.
I guess.
Was the first one 10 episodes?
10-hour-long episode. Shit.
I don't think. Wait, Rings of Power. Let's see how long it was. Episode guide. 8 episodes. So yeah, still at least 4 to 5 seasons there.
Yeah, for sure. As far as this goes, I guess you would just have to take existing lands. I mean, Middle Earth is very expansive. There's a lot of different lands, a lot of different people. Whether you want to like tell a story about the elves, the dwarves, the Hobbit was basically the dwarves, but you know.
But then that's risky too. Like you can do that, but then you're going outside of Tolkien's writing.
You are well at this point. I don't see how they're not.
Yeah. So now I see why people are upset because.
Granted, in like all these adaptations, I'm sure they definitely like filled in some gaps here and there, and nothing was ever 1-for-1.
Yeah. But still, you never want to go into a Game of Thrones territory where it's like we're going outside the books, guys. Come join us.
That's true, but weren't they also doing a thing where like material was still coming out while they were making the show?
Yeah, they were at a lose-lose situation with that.
I mean, we already have all the material that's ever going to be at this point. So
great point. Yeah, so that should be interesting. Warner Brothers diving into that. There's another article they don't have, but they're just like they want to compare it to Star Wars in terms of like possible spin-offs and extra material, just like Star Wars has a lot of different canon material.
I see it.
So yeah, we'll see. That could be good, could be bad. I'm mostly leaning towards optimistic. Again, I'm not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, so I don't have a super deep connection to it.
Right.
But we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, even my knowledge of Lord of the Rings, while I was definitely getting into it in my younger years, I primarily was sticking with the knowledge of the movies because I mean that was enough to study in and of itself. They're so long.
Mhm.
And I was captivated by the worlds. It was fascinating. It was phenomenal. Great adaptations. It hooks you for sure. And there's already so much lore they're putting on screen. And you can tell Jackson really cares. Even when it got to The Hobbit, while you may be like, the CG and the craft, it's different. Like even so, the core story that they're telling, I think, has a lot of merit to it.
Exactly. So yeah, and then lastly, there's some Avatar: The Last Airbender rumors that are fun to talk about.
Mhm.
Avatar News is reporting that the first Avatar Aang movie, Avatar Gang,
Gang.
Avatar Aang, of course, is going to be the main lead, but also Katara as a co-lead. It's very interesting. People could argue that the main trio were all big leads in The Last Airbender, but Aang was always like the lead, and then Sokka and Katara are like co-leads, but supporting characters. But in this one, they say Aang and Katara are getting their own, or like Aang and Katara are both romantic co-leads. Aang will be 24, a lead character. Katara will be 26, lead character. I'm 26. That's funny. Sokka will be 27 and a supporting character, and Toph and Zuko. Toph is 24. Zuko will be 28. Both Toph and Zuko have unknown roles in the movie in terms of like presence. But they are confirmed to be in the movie. So yeah, this is more of an adolescent, older, young adult. I guess it's 24 young adult. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 24. I
Yeah.
think I'm young.
Yeah, young adult type of vibe to it. So that's gonna be fun and cool.
I think until you hit like your 30s, I think you're still qualifying the young adult.
I would hope so. So that's really cool in terms of like Aang and Katara and just that relationship being front and center. Also, it came out recently. Kyoshi, Ranji, and Yoon, characters from the Avatar Kyoshi novels. Again, Kyoshi is the main lead. I think Ranji is like the earthbender that she's with, and then Yoon is the Fire Nation princess that she is with. I think they have a romantic interest as well. Are going to have substantial roles in either the first animated movie or the Earthbender series, which is also slated for 2025. This Earth Avatar show is also going to be, again, a sequel to Legend of Korra. And that's, again, scheduled for 2025, at least according to these rumors. But we should be getting a movie and TV show in 2025. That's really fun, as always.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the fact that we're getting Kyoshi and the characters from the novel in these new materials in the movies and TV shows, really cool, because they're books coming to the big screen or coming to the small screen, which is really cool. I still have to read those Kyoshi novels. I've heard they're very, very good. Hopefully this summer is the time I finally do it. It's hard to find books in between reading manga and light novels and Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't have time anymore.
That's fair.
I always wanted to read Percy Jackson too. I keep promising I'm going to read it this year again. Reread Percy Jackson.
Yeah, you read them all already.
Yeah, I've read them all already. I just want to reread it before the show comes out early next year. But Nathan, that's about it. 2 hours, 24 minutes.
I might offer some rumor.
Oh yes, please. What's more? What else we got?
Well, you know, my favorite character of all time,
Spider-Man.
Yes. I hear some rumblings about the greater Spider-Verse.
I love a good Spider-Verse.
And Evan, this reflects not just the live action, but across the Spider-Verse as well.
Ooh, I like that movie. I can't wait for that movie. Yeah.
I don't think this entirely hinders the greater plot of Spider-Verse, so I think you'll be okay if you hear this little tidbit. But I hear rumblings. Well, first off, that a big talk of a return of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man via appearance in Across the Spider-Verse.
Andrew Garfield in Spider-Verse, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
They were almost going to be in the first one, so that tracks.
right. And now I'm also hearing that they're going to explicitly reference the events of No Way Home in Across the Spider-Verse, as well as a name drop of Doctor Strange.
In Across the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
How would that work?
I mean, we're already dealing with multiverse events, so if it's just like, I think it's explicitly, this might be a line from Miguel, but basically like a reference of that incidents with Doctor Strange and the nerdy kid, primarily referencing Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
That would be fun. That would make sense.
Yeah, and it opens a greater door to the fact that not only is we knew like the live action Sony versus MCU adjacent canon, but that also opens the door to the existing animated realm, all being one greater connection. And we do know that Sony is trying to build up Spider-Verse stuff. What they want to do, while we have like the odd balls of Craven El Muerto, Madam Web being a big flagship of establishing these multiverse sections of Spidey projects, as well as the Silk and Spider-Man Noir shows to do their own properly done MCU where they have like the standalones leading to the big events. And I think rumors also saying that they want to build toward a Spider-Geddon type event, which is basically just any Spider-Verse crossovers they've done in comics.
Yeah, there's been Spider-Geddon recently. That was like a 2020 Spider-Geddon.
Yeah.
That's when the PS4 Spider-Man was in that one. So yeah, that makes sense. That was just a quick connection to the live action. Yeah, Tom Holland, Toby, and Andrew were supposed to be in the first one, just couldn't make it. So it would be fun to have them. I would not be surprised if they're in this movie and just one quick line of dialogue or just like seen at least visually. Wow, yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. That would be vibing. That would be cool.
Yeah,
that'd be dope.
It's been funny because like a lot of people have been guessing like you hear rumbles like Andrew Garfield's coming back, and people are like for Secret Wars, and we're like well actually in animation.
In animation and Secret Wars mostly definitely. I think I still
for
think
sure
Tim and Toby are definitely.
It's still far away off, and they're that's going to be like the longest string of contracts to lock down because they're going to be tracking down anybody who's ever existed in Marvel adaptations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Lou Ferrigno of all people pop up.
Yeah, Kevin's like, how many cameos? Yes, you're like just go for it.
Can I get Eric Bana? Can we get him in?
Oh gosh, yeah,
that'd be fun.
But yep. Anything else? Was that it?
That about I think about runs. Oh well. Again, watch passing. Again, whether or not our sources of rumors will 100% come to fruition, I did also scroll past reading a thing that looks like they are going to be greenlighting a Scream 7 and will start filming this year.
Wait, what?
Yeah, maybe.
I didn't hear about that. That's awesome.
Hey, though.
Holy shit. I'm seeing Scream 6 this week. I would love for a Scream 7. I love this cast of characters so much.
I can see it. I mean, Scream 6 is getting like stellar reviews from what I've seen. It sounds like even more so than 5.
I think 5 came out, and like while I really liked it, a lot of people had their problems with 5. I've heard a couple of divisive things for this movie, but I think overwhelmingly it's very positive as well.
I'm seeing some people say like this like really like solidifies the new cast for them, which sounds
that's
great.
Really good. I love Jenna. I love Melissa. I love the other like the twins in this one too, like the twins in the last one who didn't get a lot of time, but I'm excited.
Yeah, so that'll be cool.
Very cool.
I'm here for this new franchise. I wonder how they're going to adapt the title this time because they got lucky with the 6 in the logo. How do you do Scream 7?
It was genius. Yeah, I don't know. And where can it end? Like, do they have any ideas of ending this? I think Perry Nemiroff from Collider, I think, interviewed one of the directors, maybe both the directors. It's like,
Mhm.
do you guys ever think about ending? And they're like, well, it's very similar. Like, if there's a story to tell with Ghostface, it can go on for a very long time.
Yeah.
You just got to find a compelling two things. You got to find a compelling reason for the killing. That's like the key point of every movie is that key motivation for each Ghostface.
Yeah.
But also just keeping it modern, keeping it very much modern with the times. And horror is always evolving, filmmaking is always evolving. So with that, Scream can always evolve because it's
Yeah.
so tied to like the modern sensibilities of everything.
This is the beauty of Ghostface, because unlike somebody like a Freddy or a Jason or a Michael Myers or even a Leatherface, those are all centric characters that are living beings, and unless you like go through the route of like they've been resurrected again, we must condemn them. You know, it's once you get to the finish line, it's the finish line, right?
Yeah.
Ghostface is a mantle. That is a literal mask. Anybody can be Ghostface. Anybody has been Ghostface.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes it exciting. I can't wait. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that does it. Well, Evan, where can they
2:30.
find
How
you?
do we do this?
I just wanted food.
I'm hungry too. Find me on Twitter, Harris EV9, talking all things anime. I'm still reeling over that fantastic Attack on Titan episode. Love it so much. I just watched like random reactions on YouTube just so I can experience it all over again. So watching anime, reading manga, reading books. New Star Wars book comes out this week. And yeah, I'm enjoying Survivor. Big Brother Canada starts this week. So follow me for everything. TV, movies, everything.
A runner. Yeah, and you can also follow me at _TimeBlazer, making a show called Time Blazer. Me and Evan is amongst the cast, as well as other people. Evan being creative consultant.
Hell yeah.
Hey, and if we are such big fans of the creative writing of The Last of Us, I think you could trust us with this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, follow that Twitter. New drops all the time. So, I've new characters as well. Crafted some new characters because I'm addicted. And I did a head count, and I'm at like 30. Like 30 whole
30?
30 characters that will have impact throughout like the whole show.
Jeez, Nathan.
I know. Holy hell. But also that makes that when we gotta have some types of threats here and there. So let me make some original type villains. Let me make some new allies. Let me expand these different corners. It's been fun. It's cool.
Okay.
But yeah, follow that. It'd be good. I hope. And follow me at _Nathan Rojas for just my personal self. Watching different things sometimes. Sharing my excitement of new Ninja Turtles. But that being said, if you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to like and subscribe already, ring the bell so you don't miss future installments, as well as the finale of The Last of Us. Most importantly, what are we going to replace it with, Evan? What's the next big show?
I know we're nearing 100, but now it's like crap. It's going to take a while for us to get to 100 because we're not going to have a lot of material for My Cup of Tea in the new future. When's Secret Invasion coming out?
Yeah, y'all got any more of them Disney Plus shows?
Any more of them Loki Disney Plus shows?
Yeah, what's that coming?
We'll
But also we're starting our new set of commentaries with John Wick trilogy as of tomorrow.
Yes.
So tune in for that. And catch you guys. Hope you have a great day. Catch you guys next time.
Bye.